We are live
We're
for part
back.
two. We're back. Welcome to part two of the end of the quarter Phonathon. We're going to play a quick commercial while everybody finds their seats and joins us. Welcome back, everybody. All right. Hope everybody grabbed some lunch, got a moment to decompress from such an incredible, wild part one of the Phonathon. Did you have fun, Maren? Did you enjoy part one?
I had fun. I know that you and Mark and Eric also booked meetings, so that's pretty cool. We've got some awesome cold callers coming for the second half, as well as coaches. And then Aaron Melamed is going to come talk about empathy and sales. So it's going to be an awesome second half, too.
It is. It is. We are jam packed for part two. So, recapping a little bit about part one, we had a few people put up a couple meetings. We had Mark Mack, we had myself, we had Maren, right? Maren snagged in one there. You can go to thesdlab.com/leaderboard if you'd like to check the score. But we are doing big things, had some really cool, fun conversations, a couple of strikeouts, right? We had some bad data in there that was catching us a few times. But overall, 4 meetings booked. We've got Eric, Mark, Maren, and myself. We will see who will take the
Maren,
crown.
I love that
First,
guy.
yeah. We've got, did I say Mark Maren? That's funny.
Yeah.
Mark Mack, Maren Erickson, myself, and Eric Linello all secured a meeting in that first half. We have prizes for the first 3 or the top 3 cold callers. Topher is going to be coming in here shortly to redeem his title, so we should see if he'll knock one of us down. But hopefully, I can't win. I'm the host, so I can't win. So we'll see who pulls out those meetings. But if you'd like to check out that leaderboard with us. I'll drop that in the chat for everybody so you guys can go and follow along for that. But jump in the comments. Let us know you're here. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Love to know you're here. Invite all your friends. Send the link. Share it to everybody. Make a post and bring everybody in. But
if anyone wants to come cold call too, jump on with us.
Let us know.
Tag us
Please,
in the comments.
Let us know.
We will give you the link to come join. We would love to have you.
Love to have you. Don't be scared. It's a safe zone. You all saw the first half. We had some great people come in here that had never cold called for their first time, right? They ripped them with us. Restaurant 365 came and represented very well. So that was cool. We had, Hawaii. We had, what was the other one? We had Hawaii and another international caller.
I don't remember.
Honduras.
Yes.
Honduras and Hawaii. Crazy, right? Joining us. But yeah, you want to come cold call with us? Please drop a comment. We will invite you. Maren will reach out. We'll get you the link so you can come on stage with us. And if you just want to tune in, drop as many questions as you can in the comments. A couple things. Shout out to our sponsors. We're going to cover a little bit about our sponsors. So, we've got Orem, who's our dialer today. Orem is incredible. We've had Maren representing from their squad. We have myself. But Orem is a parallel dialer, if you don't know. So they help you, amplify your outreach and your dials. So you'll watch us. We have lists loaded. It's calling 3 to 5 dials at a time, driving those conversations for us. So that'll be dialing in the background. So tag them, blow up their social media at Orem. We have Spliced Video, who has provided this beautiful office that I am in. That is Nick Capozzi's company. If you are a company trying to tell your B2B story and you're looking for storytelling through video, you want to check out Splice Video. SD Lab, my company, consulting firm, putting on this entire event. Tag it, shout it out, blow it up. Lead Magic with Jesse Owlett. our guru when it comes to email and email deliverability. What they do is they track your website visitors, so you'll be able to get intent data and know exactly, how to call some hot leads. So you'll see that there. And then Aware. If you're looking to 10x your LinkedIn activity in the next 7 days, then highly suggest you check out Aware. They are doing big things. They have an opportunity. It's kind of, simpler to like Shield. So Shield, if you use Shield for your LinkedIn, that is basic analytics. Taplio is another one that's like for AI, but Aware is more focused on your engagement. So again, 10x your LinkedIn commenting, you'll be able to engage and have a centralized feed in their platform. So I'll drop the link for that. Again, shout them out. It's at Aware. They are giving out some freebies. So anybody who subscribes to Aware will get a free copy of their social selling course, which is about a $500 value. Just connect with Alex Boyd, the CEO and founder of that on LinkedIn, and he'll be able to take care of you. So I will drop that in the chat so you guys can go hit that up and follow that along. So for the second half, we have giveaways happening at 5 p.m. Pacific. We have a couple bundles. And so for that, in order to be entered throughout the show, go ahead and tag Lead Magic, Aware, and the FD Lab. That's what we're going to be tracking. So shout these companies out. We'll start collecting those entries throughout the whole show. And then at 5 p.m. Eastern or Pacific, we will give those out. We've got a couple bundles there. And then our top 3 cold callers are going to win some prizes today too, like Reggie licenses. And our cold call champion who books the most meetings, right, Maren, is going to win a Headset Advisor headset that you happen to be rocking right now on the show, right? So
let me
keep
tell
an
you,
eye out on all that.
Game changer to have a nice headset.
Right? I dig it. I love it. I made a terrible mistake of leaving mine behind. So Drew already made sure in part 1 to make me feel very bad about that because I remembered my AirPods, but I didn't remember the headset. So keep an eye out for that. But we will be giving away a winner for that. Then at 3:30 Pacific, we have Aaron coming, right? Senior account executive with Orem, our sponsor. And he's going to be coming and hashing that out while we make some cold calls and talk a little bit about empathy in sales. How do we do it? How do we leverage it? How do we deal with the high pressures of, our number and booking meetings and closing deals, but, lead from a place of empathy while we are out there prospecting. So he'll come by, spend some time with us. So don't miss that. That's from 3:30 Pacific to 4:30 Pacific. And then we'll be ready to rock there. But I think that really covers everything, Maren. Did I miss anything that you know of?
I think that's about it. I did want to throw it out there that if you're wondering how we are getting into all of these calls, we are using Orem, and we do a free trial for anyone who would like to see if it might help with your own cold calls. But you can find that at orem.com/trial. And we would love to hear any feedback that you guys have.
Perfect. We've got Tracy back in the audience. She was a big part of the first show. She had popped in a question real quick on, a little bit about Reggie. So I'm going to drop that in the chat. Reggie is incredible. What they're doing is, if you're a sales leader or an SDR, an AE who has to write sequences and cadences, their tool does it for you. So it's really, really cool. You go into it, you put in some prompts, you pull in your website, you talk about your value prop and your pains to your prospects, and it actually spits out a sequence for you and a cadence and writes the messaging. And it goes beyond that. Like you can do webinar follow-up, you can do in-mails and LinkedIn connection notes. Some people are even using it for content creation. Like if you're, posting on LinkedIn, it's been a huge help for some folks. But it's all powered by AI and some of the same coding as like ChatGPT. So you can reach out to Elliot Garcia, who was here earlier today, or Amelia Taylor, 2 of incredible folks that work with them. But hopefully that answers your question, Tracy. Drop it in the chat. It's reggie.ai. They are going to be giving out a couple licenses this afternoon for those who are the top cold callers. So I believe it's 3 months free for them that they are giving out. So definitely a great tool. And I believe you can actually get started for free. That's what's so cool is they do a product-led growth kind of motion. So you can get in there, dabble with it, Tracy, check it out, do a sample cadence and sequence and kind of see, what you think. But it's well worth the spend. Really enjoy Reggie. So shout out to them and their team. Awesome. Perfect. You plugged the Orem trial. So you get 500 free dials with that. So if you do want to amplify your dials and you want to try to, we all know what it's like in the trenches having to do it manually. You only do 30 dials a day, maybe 50 on a good day. But with Orem, you can do that in like an hour, maybe even 30 minutes. It cranks them out. It's gets rid of all that mundane air time that you're dealing with, waiting between connects. So it's auto dialing all of that and just giving you the conversation. And you guys will see that in part 2 today of this show as we are calling. You'll see our cold callers just grabbing meetings, hopefully at a pretty high rate. We had some good success in part 1, so it was really good. Awesome. We will start bringing in our callers as soon as they are around. I know we've got ideally coming this time around for us, Maren?
We've got a whole bunch of people that said that they just kind of drop in because they were signed up for different time slots. But Wasim, if they show up again, Topher will be by. Looks like Sandy just hopped on.
Yep.
Hi, Sandy.
Sandy, Hi. What's going on, sir?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. That was funny. I called SVB on my cold calling last round, and the guy was not impressed. So.
Not impressed.
Have you not seen the news?
Yeah, I as soon as he answered, I turned and I was like, uh-oh. And he's like, I guess you haven't been paying attention. I said, no, I was paying attention to your situation. I was not paying attention to mine right now, and I didn't realize who I was calling, but I'm pretty certain that what I've got to offer is not something that's going to be of any benefit to your situation. So
there you go. Weslyn, how are you? Good to see you.
Good. Nice to see you.
Yes. Weslyn is here. She is one of our coaches this afternoon. And possibly, are you going to be cold calling with us or just wanting to coach some calls?
I'll coach.
Yeah, there we go. Weslyn, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with Transform Sales and some of the things that you got going on with what you got.
Awesome. So I'm a recovering chemist. I always have to start there. And as a recovering chemist that moved into sales, I tell people I finally figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And so I made a fast ascent from individual contributor to international sales manager. And I realized that there was a really, really big gap in core sales skills for people. And so what I do now within my organization is we worked on what I call behavior-based skills development. So driving behaviors to drive sales.
Love it. I was on your podcast, like I think now a year and a half ago when we first crossed paths. And it's just been incredible to watch you ever since. Follow her on LinkedIn. You put out some incredible content and leveling people up in exactly that stuff. And we both agree, right? The science behind the sales. That we both agree that, you got to understand the formula, you got to experiment, you got to try different things before you can unlock the art of sales, right? And getting into the creativity side of it. But there is a formula to the madness. Right?
There's a method to the madness.
There is a method. You just got to figure it out, right? Put in the right ingredients. Otherwise, you got a big old volcano explosion and you're like, well, that didn't work out.
Yep.
But it's all about experimenting. Exactly. Awesome. Well, we'll wait for a few other people to join us. I know we've got a few other. Sandy, you've got Orem, or what are you going to be dialing out of?
Yeah, I'm dialing out of Orem.
Okay.
And I didn't require any of a tutorial because I've used it before, and it's easy enough for even me to use. So.
It's so easy. Shout out to Orem, right? We've got like 30 or 40 people on Orem for this show, and it was super easy, right? Everybody was able to go through, get themselves connected, goes right into your CRM, pulls any list of prospects that you've already created. You just pick the list you want to call from, and then it's as simple as dialing into your browser and letting it do its thing. So it's very, very cool. Maren dropped a link if you want a free trial. Right? You can get 500 free dials. You can give it a try, and let us know what you think. But we love Orem. Big fans here.
Yep.
And shout out to them for letting us use it. We
I
are
also
a little
just dropped the Phonathon special link in there that will let you do the free trial with a couple extra perks. So.
Ooh, there you go. SD Lab coming in clutch. I wonder who runs that company. Shout out to them.
I wonder who.
I wonder who that is. SD Lab. No, I'm excited for you both to be here. Mark Mack is going to come through. Topher
cool.
should be here shortly. Some of the gang from part 1 is going to come back, and then we will rip some dials. Anybody in the audience, let us know. Like we said, if you want to join us on stage, you do want to come, just kind of test out your cold calls, get coached by the amazing Wesleyan, right? If you want to learn a little bit more from her and kind of see how she can break down your calls, that we can have you come up and give it a shot. Don't be scared. We have fun.
Ronen coming back or no?
No, Ronen. I am rocking with Marin, my lovely co-host here. So she's going to be rocking it with me. Ronen had some sick children, had some things going on, and had to take off. Got to have those kids at home, the remote life and taking care of 2 kids. Can't be always too fun. So, but yeah, we'll have Mark come in here. We'll have a few others, but super excited for everybody to be here. We'll be here from starting here in about 10 minutes, all the way till about, like I said, 3:30 Pacific. And then we're going to have Aaron come in. Weston, you might want to stick around for that one too. Aaron's going to come talk a little bit about empathy and sales. We're going to have like a panel discussion. So I know it's a hot topic to you as well. And how do we be empathetic? Shout out to everybody in part 1, by the way, because most of the cold callers were very homey-like, very, very chill in the way they were calling. Nobody was pushing. Everybody led with empathy in their outreach, and it was really cool to see. Were you here, Wesleyan, for part 1? Did you see anything out of that one?
I didn't.
Gotcha. Marin had a great one. She has a very cool. What's your opener, Marin? How do you if they answer the phone?
Usually at Orem we go with "They keeping me busy over there today," but a lot of the time I will just kind of introduce myself, ask if I can take a couple seconds, explain why I'm calling, and say, then you can tell me to go take a hike or hang up on me if it's not interesting.
It's that tone and that delivery, right? You just act like a homie. You just kind of come into it. You're an interruption. You're acknowledging it. You do use the permission-based opener, right? To just kind of say, hey, do I have a minute to kind of run this by you? And hey, if not, kick rocks, right? Like, it's okay. And usually they chuckle and they're like, yeah, that's fine. So it's a really good one to use. I know Ronen likes to use his, did you want to roll the dice kind of approach? Hey, this is a cold call. Do you want to roll the dice? One that got everybody excited earlier that I came up with that I was going to use, Wes, is, hey, Wes, it's Tom over at the SD Lab. If your company was a superhero, what would its superpower be? And how can I help you save the world?
Ooh, that's good.
So I thought it was cool. I was going to try it in the second half today. I dropped that one earlier, and everybody was like, "Whoa, that's so creative!" And I was like, "Hey, it's just a fun conversation. Everybody wants to be a superhero. Everybody has a superpower, but like, what's your company, and how can I help you save the world? Right? How can we work together?" And that opens up the conversation.
And what that
is, I'll drop it in the chat.
It's that pattern interrupt. It's like, okay, I'm on my computer, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but you're like, wait, what? That's not what I'm doing, right? Like, hold on, huh?
You're wait, what did you just say? If my company was a superhero, like what? So Wesleyan, I guess I'll ask you, right? Imagine if we were on a cold call, like what is your company? If your company was a superhero, what would its superpower be, and how can we help you save the world?
So let's see. When you ask that, I'm pretending I'm on the other side of the call. I would say we're Wonder Woman, because of course there's the W's, right? So we have to stick with the W's. But really, when I think about us, we're like these Wonder Women. It's like anyone you get within the organization, it's like, wow, you're so fantastically amazing. You helped me go from here to here. You're so empathetic. You really understand what I'm going through. So yeah. That's what I would say.
Use that truth lasso. And you use the truth lasso, right? To pull out the truth, help them, and pull them out, right? Wonder Woman always had her lasso that did all the damage. So that's an awesome answer. I love that. And what a great way to put it, right? You guys are doing some great stuff in your company. It's all, very woman focused, which is awesome, and empowering those around. And that's a killer thing to do. I like the answer. That was really good.
So
Sandy, what would you say?
Take that? How would you take that and move into what you want to get accomplished on the call?
Oh, obviously, like you said, it was a cool icebreaker because now I got to know a little bit more about your company and kind of understand. You're like, wow, that's a great question. We'd be Wonder Woman. And then, my next question, right, is then how can I help you save the world today, Wesleyan? What are you doing? And how can I empower more Wonder Women within your org to do more things? What is the top priority for you right now?
I love that. And so I'm the customer and the coach, right? At the same time. And so you stepped into my world, right? You said,
Yep.
Okay, I listened to you, active listening, which so many times we're like, we got to hit these quotas. We're not actually listening to people, but you're actually listening to me. And then you took what I said and connected it to how you're going to move the conversation forward. So we're not going to keep talking about how great Wonder Woman is and all the amazing things she did. We're going to take that piece, connect it with your true value proposition, what you're trying to accomplish, and then continue the conversation. I just love it.
Yeah, it's a great way, right? Because obviously Wonder Woman means something to you. It lets me know a little bit of insight into your world, what you guys are doing. And then I tie that into, okay, what is top priority for you? And how are you trying to save the world as the Wonder Woman, as an org? And where can I, what is the top priority? And then from there, we're now just having a conversation, and you're going to tell me a little bit about what you're working on. And I can kind of decipher from that if I should go into my value prop and continue to talk about what I can do, or I realize that maybe it's not something that is a fit right off the bat because you're going to tell me you're working on X, Y, Z, and maybe that's not an area. But I might be able to help you still, right? And say, hey, you're working on that? That's really great. The reason for my call is I wanted to talk to you about SD Lab and what I do as a consultant. But from what you were saying, why is that a priority for you right now? Why is that the focus, right? And so I give you a little value prop. You kind of keep the conversation going with me, but now we're going to dive into why you gave that answer and just keep peeling away at the onion until we can find that like moment on that aha where I'm like, I got Wesleyan, right? This is where I can plug this in. This is where I can pivot with her and say, hey, based on what you said, right? This is where the SD Lab, I think, could help that mission and help you save the world in a better, in a bigger way than what you're doing today. So it's a cool opener. I think it's a cool way to open a call, be a little different. Because like you said, nobody expects that one, right? Like as soon as you get a cold call, you're like, hey, it's Tom over at the SD Lab, right? Quick question. If your company was a superhero, what would it be, right? What's the superpower? Sandy, what would you say if you got a cold call about Rightbound? What would you say Rightbound, if it was a superhero, what would be its, superpower and superhero?
I'm not all that well versed in the world of comic books, so I'm going to just take a stab at this. But so what we do is we save our, let's say it's Superman, and the kryptonite is time, and we give time back to sales teams so that instead of spending, a couple hours a week or a couple hours a day even on research that really is only in most cases going to create an when you do, well, let me rephrase it. So when you do research for my role, you don't have enough time in the day really to go real deep. So we're looking for relevance.
Right.
And so if we can save, 2 hours a day to give that back to the SDRs to actually engage in conversation and be human, or maybe even more human, be able to spend time on social that they're not spending now, and really build some relationships on LinkedIn, for example. So our superpower is saving people time. It's what they do with it that's what is really relevant. Too often, I think people that have time saved end up just re-wasting it another way. So our hope is that that's not happening.
So a great way to follow up with that, Wes, you'll like this one too, is playing into the superhero side is, so what's the kryptonite stopping you from that mission right now, Sandy? Tell me a little bit about, what's stopping that.
Oh, gosh. Well, Tom, I've been doing outbound selling for longer than I care to admit. And it's interesting to me that the process has not changed much since I was selling high-speed internet access when we were having to convince businesses they needed it. And my process today is not a whole lot different than that. whereas technology is a lot different. So it would be great if we could somehow, streamline the process so that we're not having to. And when I say invest, to me, that's when you're going to get time back. When it's a cost, you'll never see it again, right? So if somebody could show me how I could take my process from what it is now to more efficient and more powerful, that would be pretty important.
For sure. No, that's a good point, right? And so now we can conversate on that, right? So I think my fun next question after that opener is then what's the kryptonite, right? What is stopping you from reaching that? And how can I help you, right? Because then I'll find out what your kryptonite is and be able to dive into that, right? So yeah, I think openers are really cool.
Well, that's how I ended up at Rightbound. Obviously you helped me get there, but I was interested in what they were doing because it was stuff I hated doing, right?
Right.
And so I didn't know at first. What I was doing was looking at their customer list and seeing if any of them were hiring, because I was like, I want to use this platform because that means I'm not going to have to spend all this time doing stuff that I go down rabbit holes that make it so I can't even sell. And kind of related to that also is that I think a lot of research is just call reluctance,
Yeah.
And if you want to be on the phone, it's which I did and still do. You're looking for ways to make that happen. Whereas, I think a lot of, and I understand call reluctance. I do. So it's something, and the thing about it though is that once it kicks in, and you got to jump off that railroad track because you'll never get off of it.
Yeah.
If you don't get on, it'll snowball on you.
I've watched people be crippled by it. I've had teams that I've grown and I've had reps where I couldn't get them to dial, right? They'd only do 20, 30 dials a week. And instead they wanted to do all these other things, but they wouldn't pick up the phone, right? And they were just too terrified of it. And then I had other people on my team that's all they wanted to do was be on the phones, and call people. So it can get very challenging.
I think some of it's generational. Like my kid is 18. He would lick the floor before he got on the phone.
Yeah.
It's just, whereas I don't want to text message 50 times when it's a 5-minute phone call, right?
We were used to the phone line being on the wall, right? Like we were on the phones for hours, right? We were the generation from like the moment we got home from school till the moment we went to bed, we were on the phone. Or
my parents got a second phone. They got a second phone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just so you'd get off the internet, right? Because they'd be like, "Can you hang up the phone? I'm trying to get on the internet."
Oh yes.
Yeah. And you hear that.
So one of the things that I like to tell salespeople who are having call reluctance or whatever their issue or anxiety is, some people don't even like doing research. Whatever the thing is, I always tell them to do the thing that you like doing the least when your brain is most active. So if you're a morning person, you need to be dialing in the morning. If you're like that midday after I had my lunch person, or sometimes people are like the end of day, that's when you have to do it because you're at your best. If you wait until the end of the day and you're a morning person, it's never going to get done and those calls are going to suck. So do the thing that you least like when your brain is most active.
They call that eat the frog.
Yep. Brian Tracy. When I start my day with calls because what I find is that if I have a good call block early in the day, the rest of the day just goes really well for me. But if I'm trying to play catch up in the afternoon, man, it's just not usually a great way to make things happen,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's just easier to do in the mornings, right? Like get your dials in first thing. I will say sometimes it is very cool to sneak in the afternoon around like 2 to 4 p.m. in your territory because you will catch those people at the end of the day. But I used to, as an SDR, record a voicemail or a phone call first thing in the morning to where and after, and you could just see a difference in tone and delivery and your level of excitement and the things that you're doing. Because after lunch, you get in a coma, you get all tired, and you just don't deliver versus just get in the morning, rip your dials right away, and then spend your afternoons prepping for the next day, right? Or doing some admin and some research and vetting out your accounts, but get that morning time to just get it done. And especially I think, Maren, you said it earlier on session 1, it was just getting over that initial phone call. You had your first connect and you were like, cool, out of the way. I got it. Now I could just get into the motion.
Messed that one up. Can't be worse
Yeah,
than that.
Yeah, that's true though. It's also, we all have different times, like Wesleyan was saying, that we're most effective. Like I woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, right? And I worked and did a bunch of stuff until 8 o'clock Eastern time. So 7 o'clock my time before I got on the phone, right?
Yeah.
I'm great between like 2 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon is my time. And after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, typically I just want to take a nap. And so I've got a weird schedule. I should be calling like, Southeast Asia or something, probably. I don't know, but I literally usually around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, ugh. If I don't have my calls done, then it becomes drudgery at that point, partly because
then you're just slamming your number in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the energy's not there. You start just slamming dials to get your numbers up on the board. Like you're not really giving it anything, and you're not even going to get much connects. I have a client right now where I've been testing calls for them and going to market for them, and I'm doing it from like 1 in the afternoon to 3 in the afternoon, and I had to flip my times because it just wasn't really successful. I wasn't getting connections, and so I started now doing it from 8 to 10 a.m. and just getting it out of the way for my day. And working with this client to give them the most success. And now I'm starting to see more connects, right? More conversations, more energy. But when you start allocating your dials to the afternoon, the only time that works is when you've already done the pre-work in the morning, because all that work in the morning will then be fruitful in the afternoon, right? You might have had a bad morning, made 50, 60 dials, got nothing, but then you come back from lunch and you grab that meeting or two. But if you're only calling in the afternoon, it's very tough, depending on your industry vertical.
Doesn't work.
But again,
me,
that's just my truth.
Yeah,
that's just our truth, right? That's just for us is that some people are very good in the afternoon.
Friday afternoons, though, for some reason, I think that some of the C-suite people are still hanging around, and I get people to answer the phones on Friday afternoons, which you wouldn't think they would.
Same here. And it's always
Same
like,
here.
oh, well, I totally get that you're leaving on the weekend now. Can we just put some time on the calendar next week instead of me taking up your time now?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's so easy. Do you see that too, Wesleyan? Do you see it kind of work out on? Yeah.
Friday afternoons is the sweet spot because everybody's trying to wrap up from the week. Nobody books a meeting at 3 o'clock on a Friday. Like they just never do that. So they're always in front, and they're like in front of their computer, and they're not thinking they're going to get calls, right? Because they're just in that strategic brainstorm. And so, that is I
think they appreciate the work ethic too.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's more like you're mirroring what they're doing, basically, is what it comes down to.
You're still grinding. You're like, wow, it's 4 o'clock on a Friday. You're still in the office.
Yeah, they respect the hustle a little bit, right? They throw a little nod your way and be like, hey, man, I'm impressed. One, you're picking up the phone, which nobody does that for me anymore anyway. And two, you're doing it on a Friday at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Like, yeah, man, let's get some time on the calendar next week. Like, thanks so much, right? It's really incredible. It is weird. It's Friday afternoon is the only one that it works. Monday through Thursday, you ain't going to see that success. But like Fridays are where it's at. Fridays are my favorite day to cold call. But I think it also helps that, and this is where people think that, you could just walk in on a Friday and make this happen. But it really is about the work you're doing Monday through Thursday that leads up to that success on Friday, right? You're planting the seeds, you're making the calls. I know some SDRs that they actually they make a list of people they haven't ever gotten contact with, like they're 10, 12 touches deep with, and they'll make a list specifically for Friday afternoon, and they only call that because they find more success with those people somehow, some way. Like they're picking up on Fridays and they're like all of a sudden available after chasing them down for so long. But again, you got to put in that work all the week. Yeah. It's weird.
Well, karma,
psychology behind what we do.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but
karma,
like you said, planting seeds. I mean, the seeds that you think you're going to harvest from aren't always the seeds that you do pick your fruit off of, So, but I do think that, the universe is fair. And when you put work in, I mean, and look, it's not just about work. It's about working smart and also having the ability that you need too. So I worked for Tom Hopkins, who was an old school Scottsdale real estate agent.
Yeah.
In fact, he probably still is wearing polyester. That dude had the widest ties. But anyway, he language was very important to him, and that was when I learned to use words like if somebody asked us how much something cost, it was an investment. But if we wanted to put it as a negative light, then it was a cost, right? So things like that, and we would get fined in the office if you cursed. You had to put $1 in the jar, and then we'd have a raffle every month, stuff like that. But in any event, Tom was convinced, and I'm not sure he was wrong, that if you were selling small life insurance policies door to door, and all you did was knock on people's doors, and your script was, hey, you don't want to buy any life insurance today, do you? If you did that enough times, somebody's going to say, hey, you know what? Interestingly enough, I'm looking for life insurance right now. So, I mean, the point is that hard work was going to pay off, even if you didn't have a great arsenal of tools or a tool belt. But obviously, you're going to do even better if you're working hard and if you've got a skill set that's attached to it. So,
for sure. We've got Mark Mack, the godfather of cold calling, in here. So Mark's going to be joining us. We got, oh my God, y'all. Let's introduce another myth, legend, and phenomenal individual, Chris. Chris is here too.
Chris. Hey, Chris.
Oh, we got 2 legends, right? 3 legends. Wesleyan, Mark, and Chris. Like, y'all, come cold call.
When did I become a myth?
I didn't know you existed until today. I heard you were an AI robot, so I don't know.
What Replicant does, not me so much.
No,
How do we know you're real? Prove it.
I literally heard cold calling on Fridays, and I'm like, I need to be here. I need to be here to talk about this.
It's Thursday.
Well, that's why I'm not calling today. I'm calling tomorrow.
But that's okay.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Sandy. Yourself?
Good.
Excellent.
I'm doing great. How's Jerry doing?
She is fantastic. She's
Awesome.
a blast. We were putting some sequences together earlier today, and she was talking about what kind of memes and GIFs she can include, because that is priority when she puts a sequence together. I love it.
I've had some reps, man. Reps do a great job with GIFs and memes. That's a great topic. Wesleyan, do you use GIFs and memes in your outreach at all?
It kind of depends who the ICP that we're going after. Like, if we know that they're gonna like that, like, we have to step into their world. Right? I can't email CEOs of manufacturing companies like that, because they're gonna be like, spam, right? But if I'm targeting, a SaaS company or startups, and I know what the demographic is, absolutely.
I think I'm going to start an AI company, an AI meme creator for our industry. I think that'd be cool. I think there's an opportunity there.
I'm waiting.
He graduated. Now he's going to start something.
I know, right?
Right now,
when you say I'm going to
put your email into something, like, you could take the email you wrote, throw it into this prompt, right, and then it would AI create you the GIF or the meme that would best align to that. Because I think that's the big problem with most people that want to use GIFs and memes, is it's like, what do I put here? How do I play this off right, given the message? And only some people have some serious creativity with that. Caspian is really good at that. Erica Stacy, he's amazing, right? And so I can't do it. I try. I'm not very good at it. Yeah, Sean.
I'm awful at it.
So, like,
I'm awful at it, but I want to use them though. So I just steal Caspians and just don't.
It kind of depends on how you're using it, right? I mean, like, are you using it in email? Are you using it on I guess that's the only place you really can use it, right? Like, I want to do a live
in social. You could do it in like LinkedIn, DMs. If you're having a conversation, it could go a lot. I think it's really good in LinkedIn DMs because that's more common in that realm than it would be like an email, which has spam filters and all that great stuff. But like in LinkedIn DMs, GIFs are going off like crazy. In almost every DM conversation I have, there is a GIF somewhere.
Never
the
split
only
the
problem
difference.
is the integration with how LinkedIn does it, because you can't use like your native phone GIF search or whatever. You have to download it as a photo and upload it.
Right.
So if they would fix that like every other social platform does, where I can just send it from my keyboard, that would make it a lot easier.
It would be good.
Yeah, like I made a GIF like it was like I used them a few times, or I used them a few times when it's like late in the sequence they haven't responded, or I've used them like even in like an outreach where, let's say we had a meeting and now I'm being ghosted or something like that. And it's like, I put this one, I didn't know this because I actually didn't realized I wasn't able to acquire this data, but the woman happened to like dogs, and my GIF or my meme or whatever it was like the dog had its head on the couch, top of the couch, and the cell phone was there, and it was like, I'm waiting for your call. And she loved it. She had her secretary call me, or her assistant admin call me and set a meeting like within 5 minutes of me sending them.
When you can include animals, like guaranteed. Include
Animals.
Guaranteed.
Animals and
Animal and food.
Dog,
Yeah.
dog.
I mean, it wasn't a long shot that she didn't like dogs or cats or something. So it happened to be a dog, but I mean, it's like, but she happened
You
to
gotta
have
be
that
careful with the
exact
dog
same
and cat
dog.
people.
Oh yeah.
She had
I
the
will
golden
say,
retriever.
too,
You gotta
like,
get it right.
the-
You gotta make sure you know their preference.
With the memes, I'll always like, take a peek at their LinkedIn, make sure it's not like a 70-year-old man that I'm sending some like obscure meme to that's like not going to make any sense. Obviously, it's going to resonate
When they're
more
like,
with
"What the
people
hell is
who
this?
are
This is unprofessional."
actually on social
Right.
media and understand the meme format before sending it to them.
At the end of the day, what's the worst that can happen? They respond to you and say, this is unprofessional. Like, they responded. That's better than 90% of my email.
Hey,
So I'll take
Help
it.
my
That's
email
true.
deliverability. Woo!
Yeah,
Get that response.
They got it.
Tell me that it sucks. Just tell me. No, it's true.
Am I
though,
wrong?
Right?
But
Like, what's the worst that can happen? You know,
one of the first memes I ever remember, and this is I probably shouldn't even bring this up, but do you remember the grizzly bear in the snow, and he's got snow all around his snout, and he's like, "I effing love cocaine." Does anybody
Yes.
remember that?
Yes. Yeah,
That was
yes.
one of the funniest. And then now there's a movie called The Cocaine Bear or something,
Cocaine
isn't
Bear.
there?
That's
I
a
mean,
real
my
story.
gosh.
Oh,
That is
That's
a
a
real
true
story. It's a real
story.
story.
that's
Yeah.
a real story.
Yep.
Come on,
Yeah.
seriously?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
movie is exaggerated, but it really did happen. Like a bear
And
did.
there really is a museum that has the stuffed cocaine bear that you can go visit and like learn about.
Amazing.
Wow.
I have so many questions.
Wow.
This is
So I
what
love how it
Evan
says
says to
Topher.
all of that.
Topher, I love how it says 2022 champ, and you look like you're on the golf course at the Masters or something.
So this is actually Camp Woodruff in North Georgia. It's a Boy Scout camp, and I took that picture with my phone, so it came out really
Wow.
good. But that's what I call my happy place. So getting outdoors, spending time with the kids, things like that.
That's
Heck yeah.
that's a
If you win
beautiful
again
picture.
today, we'll get you a gold jacket. How's that? We'll get you a gold
That'll
jacket.
work.
Didn't he
So it
win?
can
He
really
did win
be-
something already.
No, he won in 2022. He was the champ, but he's got to redeem his title today. If he
That's
could do
right.
it, we've
I
got.
told
only
you I was
one.
going to give
Everybody's
you
got one
a
each.
cold call session, or I told
There you
Mary
go.
cold call session and a shirt.
There you go. Well, I'm going to fire up my dashboard or my Orem. So if you guys want to, we'll start cranking out some dials. Everybody can get in. Wesleyan is here to coach us, kind of break down some debriefs. When you're dialing, if you go up to the tab, the StreamYard tab in your browser, you can right click and click mute site, and then you can not hear us while you go through your call. Just know when you end your call to unmute unmute it and come back to us, so it doesn't get too rowdy. But we will start calling. Should we invite Evan up here, man? Evan's in the crowd. He's back,
Yeah.
so we can get him
I
up
mean,
here.
we could get some great commentary from Evan.
I mean, look at this commentary already alone, right?
I know.
Anyone who has a problem with creativity, fun, well-intended, non-offensive outreach can respectfully F off, right? Like, it's okay. Like Chris said, what's the worst that's going to happen, right? Like, what are you going to do?
He said
I've seen a lot of
respectful.
people use memes.
Respectfully.
Hey, Tom, I've got a great story for you. I can't tell it right now, but I've got a very good cold calling story that off the record I'll share with you at some point.
Get it. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, Ronald, you need to get in
wait.
here too.
Oh my God, Ronald, please come in. Maren, can you reach out to Ronald? We got to get Ron in. You guys, Ron is from Dooley, the Ron Slocum, the
he's not
Ronald
with-
group.
Ronald is on
Oh.
to a new opportunity.
Yes. Thank you. You were right. Gosh, I'm making mistakes all over today.
Also, for anyone
All right,
who was
Evan.
not here the first round, we are stating that we are on a recorded line just because we are streaming live, and this is going to live forever on the internet. So to protect
Yes.
our prospects,
Yeah, but
data
you can't
whatnot.
hear them. You can't hear them on the other side, though, right?
Still, we have to
Doesn't
do it. Yeah. Yeah, but we still have to do it for legalities and stuff. So we still have to put it out there. But yes, we are, housekeeping. We are only hearing our side of the convos. We are not hearing the prospects, and we are saying it's on a recorded line, just because it's on the internet, it's live. We want to be respectful to our prospects.
In California, you have to do that now, I think, don't you? If you're calling into California. Yeah.
Yep.
Even on your hamburger phone.
Even on the hamburger phone.
Yep.
Really? That's crazy. That is wild rules. It's getting crazy. They're cracking down.
All right.
Topher needs to get a meeting.
I do.
Where's the leaderboard?
Otherwise,
Who's on there?
let me drop that link for everybody. I've got the leaderboard up. Right now we have Eric Lanello, Mark Mack,
Gene?
Marin, and myself.
No, I'm sorry. I've got the wrong number. I apologize.
Ionella. I think it's Ionella, isn't it?
Is it? Is it an I?
Yeah.
God, I am off today.
It's an I.
Ah,
Pretty
is
sure.
that an I? Really? No, it's not. It's an I. Oh. I am terrible.
Tom
come
can't
on,
read, but
Sam.
at least he can talk. Oh, hey, Jim. It's
don't make
Marin
fun
calling
of that
from
guy.
Orem on a recorded line. How you doing today?
What is happening on the other side of that call?
With who?
Her eyes are
Look,
so
it's
big.
Evan.
Oh my God, it's Evan. Hi, Evan.
Hi.
David Gutterman?
Ooh,
Hello?
wait,
Is this David?
Wait, is Mark alive?
I guess we. Yeah, David. Hi, my name is Mark Mack. We don't know each other, but I was calling for a specific reason, actually. MHR Fund Management. I work with a number of different private equity firms. Typically, those guys are majority or controlling interest stakeholders in their acquisitions. Would that be the case with you? Or? No, my name's Mark. Oh, I apologize. I guess this is your cell phone. I thought it was the office line. David Gutterman. I'm looking MHR Fund Management. Did I have the wrong person? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry. Caught you at a bad time. No worries. I don't know what happened there.
It sounds like the
You lost him?
personification of "I hope this email finds you well." It did not, in fact, find me well. It found me dying.
We don't know each other, but let me pitch slap you here. That was good.
Was that me? Was I live on that one? I didn't realize
You were
I was.
Yeah.
Oh, you were
Yeah,
live now.
we-
I was
we
over
all-
here
yeah, we all
judging
heard
you
you.
in the comments.
Oh, I wasn't even watching, but I'm so glad you're here, Evan, because I love you, brother.
Oh, I'm glad one of us does. I'm kidding. No, it's great to.
Oh, it's just sorry.
No, it's great to be here too.
I haven't seen you
Evan,
in a
while we
while,
have
man.
you, Evan, while we're here, why don't you tell us a little bit about your new home? You just had your first new home, found a new job opportunity. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? The Joan Rivers of marketing.
What are you wearing? No, hi everybody. No, I'm at Phrasey. We're a content AI. You can tell I'm new because I'm still learning the freaking pitch. We are a generative content AI platform for driven enterprise marketers. That's the.
Can you break that down a little bit simpler? Yeah,
No.
tell us a little bit more simpler.
I cannot break that. I'm kidding.
You're like, he's like, I can, but
How
I'm
many
not going
buzzwords
to.
in there? Yeah, no.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah. So that's actually part of what we're trying to figure out. That's why I got hired. No, but TLDR, you use Phrasey to generate the best messaging and copy for social media captions, email marketing, not just the subject line, but the body, push notifications, list goes on. What separates us from rhymes with Casper and Matt PPT is that you're only as good as your prompt over in those worlds. Here we actually optimize and test, so you're getting the best result. As our CEO says, anybody can generate content, but how the hell do you know it's the best content?
Nice.
So
I like that.
Well, you
That's
don't.
really cool.
Until you actually put it out there.
I mean, yeah, but that's the whole point. We learn from data sets that are available to us from integration partners as well as from working with you. So the more you use the tool, the better it gets. So it's brand safe, which is why we typically work with enterprise companies. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it will continue to reiterate the more you use it, the more you're putting in stuff, it will start adapting to your language, your tone, kind of the way you're positioning the content.
Yeah, and it kind of comes out of the box already knowing that too. That's kind of part of the whole setup and everything as well. So it's kind of why I came here, because I'm like, hey, if I'm going to go ride this, AI content wave, I'm going to go work at the Lamborghini. I'm not going to go work at the Ford Focus.
I like it. There you go.
I just imagine though, Evan, that you'll like make. I mean, I don't know how long you've been there or how much you've seen
almost a month.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like maybe I would think because you're very opinionated. Like you might get that result and be like, this sucks. You know, like what? Like it might work. I would think it would maybe.
Could you imagine? No, I would never join a company where that was a risk in the first place. And if any company were to start going that direction, I'd be the first one jumping off the ship.
I mean, if you're programming it in a way, then
could you imagine if I was the language trainer for an
AI? The world is not ready.
The
world
is not ready for that.
I'm that GPS voice that's like, as you're like, turn 3 intersections ago, stupid. Like that would be me. Like, where are you going? Or like the minute you put in the directions, oh, Taco Bell for the 5th time this week. I see. Are you okay? You know. So, yeah. Oh, you're going to your mother-in-law's house. Would you like me to take the scenic route so you can have some will to live when you get there, or do you just want to go head first into the traffic? You know. So it's gonna be one of those things. It would be the most insulting GPS ever. So if that's how I use GPS, I can only imagine what it'd be as an AI. Could you imagine me as an AI assistant?
Sassy GPT. Jeez.
Could you imagine?
We can train the AI to just talk like Evan, because like I don't know if you all saw, there was recently that post about like these Redditors hacking and breaking ChatGPT, where they basically fed it prompts to it to make it believe like it could actually start answering things that it was not allowed to answer.
Oh my goodness. As long as it doesn't sound like me, because my voice, like, who wants the gay male equivalent of Fran Drescher as like their AI assistant? You know? So we can get someone else do the sound. I'll do the writing.
There you go.
See, I would like it if it was you for a follow-up, because then it would be the Fran Drescher approach, and I'd have to do it so you would stop talking to me.
But don't tell me that, because then I'll talk more just because you told me.
I know that.
I know that's fair. But I remember as a little kid, a teacher accused me of talking too much, and I said, I'm just filling the dead air because nobody has anything good to say. That's really all it is. I don't want to hear you, so I want to hear me.
Right.
If I shut up, it means I like you, because it means like, oh, this person has something worth listening to.
There you go.
All right, well, we're going to introduce Ronald, because I biffed that one. So, Ronald, I totally forgot, man. You just joined the Red Genius Squad, right? You're in growth now. You're the account executive, right? That's what you're doing over there. And driving
building up a sales set over here. And yeah, like Evan, just a month into the role, and really excited to be building this out with Jared right now. Everything to do with sponsorships and really engaging with the community. And I'm very excited to be here.
You guys are building like
we're excited to have you
over there.
Yes, big squad.
When I saw Tom get the tattoo, I'm like, okay, there's something here. Maybe I need to get on over.
When I saw Tom get the tattoo, I still don't know.
I still got
it. Are you okay?
I think that was false.
Does it say RG?
It does.
What is it? RG?
It's RG. Yep, RG tatted on my finger. It was something I did with Jared when I joined the community. I got it about a year ago.
On your middle finger?
Yeah,
What
I made a
is
mistake
this?
when.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, that
It's
really
my
is
middle
on your
finger.
middle finger.
Yeah.
The stories that I wish I could tell on this live stream.
Oh yeah. So
Oh,
I accidentally gave the artist the wrong finger when it was my turn. She was like, "Okay, let's go," and then I gave her the finger, and then after I was done, I was like, "Well, that was."
I don't think it was an accident. I think no, that wasn't an accident. That was a Freudian slip. That was your body telling you what you needed.
Just a little bit. And now it's funny because other people are getting brand tattoos, right? It's kind of funny. It started something that we all thought was silly, but now there's a few other people that have posted on LinkedIn.
No, we
that
still
have
think
gotten
it's
brand
silly.
Tattoos. It's
No,
still
we still
silly,
think it's
but,
silly.
you know, hey, don't judge.
Don't imply past tense. Okay.
Do I need to get an SD Lab tattoo now? I should get my own company, right? I should get my own tattoo before that one.
You know how they have these like wraps for cars for ads, like they're paying people to put logos of companies on their cars, and like Uber now has like inside the cars and stuff. I'm thinking like, what's next? In 2040, people are going to start getting like QR codes tattooed in their foreheads for companies that they work for.
Just walk by. Yep, just scan
my
it, just walk by.
tombstone's going to have a QR code to my link tree at my merch store.
To your link tree.
That's funny. That's really common.
Those are coming. It's coming.
Now it's all about Geocat.
That was some good comedy.
About what?
I mean, hey, if Picasso is making more money while he's dead, so can I, right?
I'm telling you. I thought about doing a SAS sleeve. I've been working with an artist to do like a SAS like arm sleeve to where it's like got like Silicon Valley in it. It's got some brands that I like and kind of make like a SAS.
We got to get you a life, dude. We got to get you a life.
I just think it's cool.
Hi, Wesleyan.
Hi, Wesleyan.
Give me a call back.
We got to get you a life.
I got a life.
Yeah. So I was giving you a call earlier just because I was hoping to chat with you regarding your sales team.
Get it, Queen.
I'm curious if you guys are doing any kind of outbound calls to generate pipeline right now.
Hey, Slocum, I wish this was Friday afternoon, man.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I wish it was
this is
Friday
Marin.
afternoon, too.
I'm calling from Orem. It's spelled O-R-U-M.
True
Thursday
SDR.
afternoon
Spell
is
the name
where
of the
it's at.
company.
I love the zingers. Look, as she can't hear you, Evan, because she mutes the site, so you're good.
Oh yeah, because Marin's smart. Yes.
Yes.
Marin's good at her
I've
job.
been backing up so hard.
Ronald, are you going to be dialing? Did you get set up with Orem with us?
I am done for the day. I'm ready to sign off and hit the bed. But
yeah. Where are you at? Are you in the East Coast?
I am East Coast. I'm in Toronto. So 5:30 here. I was like, okay, time to go off, get some groceries.
Yeah.
Like,
Do
y'all all
life,
West,
you know.
most of y'all West Coast. Is that why y'all doing it, or just the 24 hour?
So I am in Arizona, so it's easy for me because I'm in Arizona. It's only like 2:30 for me. But some of the people here are East Coast. Topher, you're East Coast, right?
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I'm calling in. I've got part of my territories in Central, so I'm doing that for the next half hour.
Jeremy
so
Stewart?
it's mostly to up your live conversations with people that you're trying to get in contact with over the phone. If you're receiving a lot of inbounds and still trying to call those people to book, it would be probably very helpful as well. I'm happy to send you some more information if you wanted to take a look.
A good old send me more information email.
Listen, in today's market, that works.
Unfortunately, it does. Some people do need more time than what they normally get.
Is this what like sports casters sound like? To just sit here watching someone judging out loud? Is that really what they do?
Yes,
that's
100%. That's absolutely what they're all doing.
I don't believe that I have yet, but it's probably on my list here somewhere down the line.
Maybe she did a reverse sale. She's trying to sell Aaron now.
Sell him out. You don't want.
Or she's doing what I do. She's dying on the inside, and she's just giving up, but she's not going to give up too easily yet.
Like, that's why I wasn't sure if that smile was legitimate or, oh God, I'm dying on the inside, but I'm smiling on the outside.
No, me and Aaron are both in our 20s. We relate to the whole, like,
awesome.
We're dead already, you know.
Fair.
That's funny.
Okay.
Disney World's going to be an aquarium by the time we're 40. So, like, what's the point in cold calling?
No
Oh my
worries,
God.
and honestly, I don't need you to be a decision maker. I will give Sunny a call, but do you mind if I just shoot you
Ooh,
an
she got a
email with
lead.
some information just to keep in your back pocket?
And a stick-on tattoo
Yes.
while you're at it.
Ooh. With my brand
press
logo?
on nails. Say Orem on them.
I'll send you. You know what? Why aren't companies doing that in their swag box? They should make temporary tattoos for their brand.
Awesome.
How
Thanks
cool
so
would
Well, you
that
can
be?
always
James.
talk to
Hope you have a
Andrea
great rest of
Pereira
your
at
day
Rocket
today.
Science Branding to get your swag kits. You know, so
You can.
Have a good one.
But yeah, what if somebody made
Bye.
temporary tattoos? That'd be cool. Well
Andrea
done,
can
Marin.
probably work on that.
Well done.
Great job, Marin. I don't know if she can hear us yet, but
I can hear you. I remembered to unmute.
woo!
Woo!
You did great.
Well done.
We weren't
Yeah, that was
making
good.
snarky comments about you at all.
I believe you, Evan.
Not one bit.
I believe you.
Chris, any coaching on that call, sir? As you saw that play out with Marin, anything that like spoke to you? Anything
Hey,
you would have
Joyce,
done
this is
differently?
Topher at Sync Systems. Do you
Oh,
mind if I
wait,
take a couple seconds of your time and
I
talk
do
about why I'm
mind.
calling?
Hopefully you muted us, Topher.
He's going to find out the hard way.
Just keep talking in his ear. Throw him off.
He's a pro.
What is with this?
So we use a product called SalesLoft that I have it automated to where anytime I call you, it also sends you an email if I don't get a chance to get in touch with you.
Ooh.
Good deflection.
Uh-oh.
Good sales law pitch, though.
Yeah. Had to throw that in there on the live, you know.
So I work
kind of a person.
Oh yeah, so we're at Sync Systems. So I think you got added to an email, but we're the largest provider of accounting and management software.
Not like
and I
Prospect
think you
him
guys
off.
are Caliber right now, right?
That threw him off hardcore. That one got him.
See,
Rattled
when I
him
have
just a little
prospects
bit.
that ask, when I was an SDR, if a prospect started asking too many questions, like how the hell did you find me, all this other stuff, at that point, like the chances of that turning into something productive are so slim that I'm just going to throw in the towel at that point.
Unless you're selling what got you their phone number, that might work.
Fair.
That might work. Yep.
Yeah,
That's fair.
use that.
I've never been in that position before.
Me neither. I'm just thinking that would be the
Yeah,
other way.
Me neither.
Oh no.
My favorite was I had an insurance agent call us when I worked at an insurance technology startup who tried to explain to me how insurance works. But the way he explained it was so wrong that, in case you don't know, if you have a license in insurance and you're wrong, that's a crime. It's actually illegal to say things wrong about insurance while licensed.
Hey, Ralph.
So I got him in trouble with the law.
Summer was right down, and I know this is
Ralph,
calls
are you
out of the
there?
blue.
Ralph
It is a
Watkins?
cold call. And if you could give me a minute, I'm sure you'll be able to tell if it's relevant.
Yes, ma'am.
or not.
You're talking about nationals down in Dallas?
SD Lab. How have you been?
Yep, we will definitely be down there.
Oh,
doing very well. Hey, I don't mean to disrupt you this
No.
afternoon.
So
this is a cold call.
Okay, I'll
I'm
call you
calling
tomorrow.
with the
I'll call you tomorrow.
I love how the
work
overlapping
for
voices.
MOD.
Absolutely.
Are you guys doing that, or you guys focus on inbound?
Ooh, there's Tom again. The cold call is dead banner.
Yeah, and I'll be candid with you. We're hearing a lot of this.
Working both
I've been
angles,
hearing a lot
right?
of the same things from
the reason
other
for my
Caliber
call
customers.
is I'm a consultant that through the SD Lab, we're a top of funnel.
There's so
consulting
much chatter in
agency
here. I
where
was like,
we
where do I
help
even
folks
listen?
optimize their
I don't even
GTM
know.
motion when it comes to outbound, from people to process and tech. And so I was reaching out to you to kind of learn more about what you guys are doing in outbound. Are you guys finding any struggles when it comes to your cold calls or like the conversion rates you're seeing at the top of the funnel?
Only always.
Every single time.
Name one person who isn't. I'll wait.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We are facing this. We should stop mimicking what we think the other person's saying.
I do that to their faces.
Is Mark on a call?
I think we can definitely help you guys a little bit easier.
How many reps
Sounds
do you
like you're
got
having a rough go
doing
of it
it?
now.
Just-
But for
How many do
sure.
you have
So
on the-
I'll
How many do you
follow
have
up
on
with
the
a
squad doing outreach right now?
Topher sounds like a 9th grade guidance counselor right now. He looks like a PE teacher, though, but he sounds like a guidance counselor. or
Absolutely.
like a school with no budget to afford both.
Okay.
So I'll get Elliot and I'll copy you on that email.
Sweaty PE teacher.
Elliot, I'll copy
Trying
you
to
on
explain
it,
to you what
and
to
then
do with your
I
life.
will follow up probably the week before National just to confirm that time. And then we can definitely set aside some time to go through the demo and
Does
everything.
the
But it'll be
grass
great to
in
meet you
his
in person
background?
there. If you guys have any
Well,
questions
listen, I don't
before
want to
then,
take
you'll
much
have
more of
all
your
my
time, but
contact information.
I would
okay?
love to get some time on your calendar if you're
Thank you
open to
much.
it, and just
All
have.
Bye-bye.
But
I love the
I would love
Windows
to show
XP
you.
inspired
I'm a
background.
16-year sales vet. I've scaled some GTM motion, some SDR teams from scratch. I would assume you guys don't even have a playbook kind of created yet, right? Where you've mapped out
Did you
like
see
the
his
buyer
suit?
personas and you put together this playbook for those
The
kind of outsourced
shade.
companies to run
Congrats,
off of, right?
Topher.
You're kind of just creating that.
Congrats, Topher.
I didn't realize I was on mute. Yeah, I will call out competitors all day, every day. So that was a fun one. So that one's set.
Oh, we could hear you. Yeah, we could hear you.
Okay. Well, somebody, Marin, muted me.
Well, I think it's like for a second there was like 3 or 4 people going
Yeah.
at once. Yeah, that's what it was.
Okay.
No, I'm just giving her crap.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's fine too.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good place to start. Yeah. I'll send you some information about SD Lab, myself. I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. You can find me there. And then maybe in like 6 to 8 weeks, I would love to just double check in with you, just see how, the open rates are doing, what's, the results looking like, and if there's anything we can tweak or look at. What I do is, a 14-week revenue program where we'll go through all of it. I do playbooks, and then I do team coaching. So if we find anything as you kind of get settled into this in the next, 6 to 8 weeks, we can chat and maybe I can help you guys optimize some of it or find out some things that you could do differently once you guys kind of settle into the motion, because it is kind of early and it sounds like you've done all your due diligence, right? You've done most of it. So now it's just a matter of execution and then coming back to the drawing board in like 6 to 8 weeks and seeing if everything's moving along accordingly.
All right, Tom, tell us.
So yeah, I'll send you an email and then I would love to do that with you if you're open to it. Absolutely. Best of luck to you in that. And I'll shoot that email over to you. And I look forward to talking to you in the coming months. But thanks for taking the call. All right. See ya.
Trash, Tom. I'm kidding. That was great.
Oh, that sucks, man.
And then let you know.
Dude, it was, I just missed him. So he just went through like the audit process. They've already hired some consultants. They went through tech kind of evaluations, and now they're 2 weeks into launching their outbound motion for the first time ever. So it's too early to bring me in, but he wants to do it in like 6 to 8 weeks once they kind of get through the execution and see how things play out, because there might be tweaks and some stuff, but they made their playbook. They did all the consultant like demos to find out who they want. So I just timing, just missed them. I could have been a part of the convo, but
That was a good call.
follow up an email.
Yeah.
Thank you. I tried to dig into it.
Are you going to get their company tattooed on your finger?
Yes, I will.
Oh my goodness.
He has 10 fingers. There's 9 more companies.
On that
Exactly. Who wants sponsorship? Who wants to sponsor my finger?
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, he's gonna put it on his link tree for people to bid for each finger.
Hey, don't
Could you
judge.
imagine?
That's not a bad idea. Yo,
It's not a
I'll
bad
put
idea.
Dooley on my back if you pay me if you pay for it. Pay for the tattoo. I'll put the
Will Aiken
Magic
did.
Kingdom on
Will
it.
Aiken
I
did
don't
that.
know if I want to see Mark take his shirt off.
I have not a hairy back if that's
Poor
what you
guy.
TMI.
I'm dying. Oh, that was good. Michael's
What's
here.
up, bud?
Welcome, Michael.
Hey, Michael. I
to
just
see you.
muted him because his computer was making sound.
I like how
Yes.
Tom's like the teacher that walks around the room, like smacks the roll in your desk when you
Hi, Coyote.
Oh my goodness.
You can hear me.
Who's ringing
I
right
remember
now?
that.
Who is that?
Oh, I'm
Who's
ringing.
dialing right now? Oh, it's Michael. Got it. There you go. What's up, Michael? How are you? Oh,
The mute, but he's ringing.
it's
Yeah,
all
we
a mess.
can unmute
It's all
him
a mess.
if he mutes himself.
All a mess. No, it's
Tom,
okay.
on that
It's all
call,
good.
do you just ask about inbound and say like, hey, do you get most of your leads from inbound and wait for them to say, no, actually we do outbound, and then you jump in?
I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm glad I was able to get in today.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you in just a second, Chris. Maybe he's muted.
Oh, I think Mike was talking to us, saying he was glad he can get in.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Ali. This is
Got it.
Stanley
I'm
from
sitting-
Lightbound. How are you?
This is
I'm
what
like,
happens
those
when you
are-
have too many people on a call.
It's
Lightbound?
fun.
Shenanigans.
And
Oh.
this is a cold call, just to be clear.
Okay.
And if I could just share a little bit of information with you, and then you can let me know if it's relevant or not. Is that fair?
I want to hear lukewarm calls. I want room temp.
I
Room
can
temp.
get
Now
some
look
of those
those
too.
cold.
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Do
It
people
is.
dial on speaker?
Michael was. I just muted him. Michael's is his own dialing
Okay,
system,
I've
so
got-
it's playing.
I've
through
got
the audio.
Ali.greenwald at theskin.com.
Got it.
Is that right? Or did I mishear you?
I'm- Yeah, Michael, what the heck? I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm the worst type of person. I'm a speakerphone cold caller.
No, the worst kind of person is one that microwaves fish at work.
Oh,
Oh, who does
Oh.
that?
People from Connecticut.
Oh,
So, Chris, going back to your question, right?
Yeah.
The coaching. So you had said so typically I really like how Marin was phrasing it earlier on does your team make, outbound calls to, drive revenue? That's a great way for me to open up. But I typically just want to understand, are they going to market? Because most of my prospects are founders or early stage companies. So they might not even have a motion yet. So I try to open up hey, Chris, it's Tom at SD Lab. I was just curious, how your outbound is going. Is that something you guys are focused on right now? And then usually they respond and will tell me either yes or no, we're actually only doing inbound. I had a call in part 1 earlier today where they have no outbound motion and they see 100 inbound leads a month and they convert 1 in 4. So they're not
Where's
doing
it?
outbound. Huh?
I'm gonna work there. That sounds like a great deal.
That's what I said, right? I was like, damn, dude. He was like, yeah, our board of directors will not put any money in outbound. We just have an inbound funnel coming. And I was like, well, I can't help you. Cool. Best of luck with that. I wish I got 100 inbounds a month that could work that. But yeah, usually I try to find out because most of the time I'll talk to these founders and they're not even doing outbound. They're losing their networks, their referrals. They're still early in their stages. But otherwise, yeah, some of them will be like, no, we're doing outbound. And then, or tell me we're just focused on inbound right now. And then I try to take the call from there.
Why only converting 1 in 4 inbounds?
Right. I could have dove into that. You're right. Hey, good question. Right. If how I could have maybe consulted them on how to make, I could have they said they weren't spending any money, but I could have dove into the inbound section because I had led him into saying, are you closing about 1 in 4? Because I judge a 25% close rate as pretty good. Is if you can if you're getting 4 meetings and you can close 1 of them, then you've got a good pipeline. If you're not in that kind of realm, then, we probably have some diagnostic issues we got to look at in your process.
Yeah, that's
but they
really
were
good.
like, yeah, we're doing about 25%
I'm gonna hop
close,
though. I gotta hop,
What?
Tom and Marin and
Andrew?
everybody else. I'm sorry. I gotta go get my hair done today because
Andrew?
it takes a lot of money to look this cheap, as that phrase uses. I guess I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
So yeah.
Well,
Good
we love
seeing you.
Marin.
Marin,
Thank
stop.
you for making the
Marin's like, it's funny because it's true. All right. I'll see you later.
Thank God he's gone. Just kidding. Love you, Evan.
Right when he's watching. But yeah, no, that's a good way to look at it, Ronald. As I could have dove into the inbound and said, why 1 in 4 then, right? Would you like to see 2 in 4, right, or 3 in 4, especially in inbound, right? Dive into that, maybe ask some diagnostics questions. He had just told me straight out of the gate his board of directors was not spending any money, and so I didn't want to push a square into a circle and deal with it. But I could have dove it into why 1 in 4 then, or how's the outbound running. But didn't happen.
Yeah, and I think I
Good
misheard
question.
you there because when you said 1 in 4, I thought conversions on the inbounds, not closed.
Oh no, yeah, close.
Yeah,
I was asking
yeah,
him
so
if,
that's cool.
I think I always ask people 1 in 4. It's a good indicator for me to understand if they're doing pretty fairly well. And unfortunately, most companies say no, right? They're not doing 1 in 4. They wish, but some say, hey, yeah, 1 in 4, and I'm like, okay, cool.
And it's so surprising to me when I speak to like inbound teams, and inbound teams are like, yeah, we don't like. Most of the people we reach out to who've reached out to us don't answer back and book a meeting. So I'm like, what is your conversion on inbounds? Like, that's horrible.
Yeah. The more I'm into this business and I'm understanding what's going on and talking to more founders and companies, it's pretty broken out there, right? And we all know that. It's pretty bad. Most of them don't have their processes figured out. Even that call I just had, I was kind of shocked that he had all the answers and just went through all of this. Had a playbook, had all the right answers, because 80% of the time they don't, right? There's definitely gaps. It's crazy. It's weird, but it keeps me alive. I get to eat well. They need my business.
Can I interject real quick on something?
Yeah,
I just
of
heard.
course.
And I'm sure everybody's probably heard this before, but speed of return calls on requests for demos. I mean, at Rightbound, when we get to them as quickly as we should, our close rate on setting meetings from those calls is about 85%. If it goes past a half hour, it goes way off. So I think Chili Piper did a study on that.
Oh, hey Jordan, it's Marin
And
calling
they
from
said
Orem
if you
again on a
respond within 5
recorded
minutes,
line.
which is not always easy to do, then your close rate's going to be really high. But once a half hour, it drops off, an hour, it drops off. And I know that it's we definitely see a huge difference in that.
It's because it's something you learn when you're. Well, it's because don't forget, if they're putting an inbound into your services, they also did that to 4 other companies as well. Right. So it's all a matter of who's going to get to them first. And so that's a big thing to look at, right? What's your lead time in inbound? And if it's past 30 minutes to an hour and any further than that, you might as well not even call them back. They've already moved on most of the time.
Tom, you're 100% correct. When I was doing
any chance you'd be willing
auto
to
calling, we'd have an
changes we've
inbound
had to
for the BDC, 2 minutes. We were already calling the person from when they
That'd be
submitted.
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you've got to have that lead routing system very tight, and companies don't have that either, right? They don't even have proper lead scoring. They're not routing it quick enough. They just sit in a bucket, and these reps take forever to get to these things. I used to hate talking with my what, Mark?
Yeah. No, I was gonna say somebody's always gonna get it faster, right? Like if you're not the
somebody's
first,
always gonna get it faster. Yeah.
Well,
you've got to get that right in the hands of your reps as quick as possible, and most don't, right? And so I used to have SDRs on my team where their inbound bucket would be so full. It's been 2 days since the demo request came in, and they haven't called it. And I'm like, what are you doing? And it was because we had to create alerts, we had to set up processes so it could be much faster.
I'm gonna shoot a video that's gonna show me sitting like this, just getting inbound all day. Ding, ding.
The other thing about that, Tom, like Mark said, is that somebody's going to be fastest. But I'll tell you what, there was times where I dropped the ball on an inbound, and I realized I hadn't called him, and I called him like 2 days after we got the request, and nobody else had called him. So it's not sometimes it is still worth calling them, but. It's amazing.
It's always worth calling. It is. You just got to be aware that you might not, the success rate is clearly in the data that the faster you can get to it, the better, right?
I'm going to tell you this too, though. Keep this in mind. This is not unusual because I am like this. I'm not a big fan of if I need something, I don't typically, not always, but maybe with technology and things like that. But I call one company, I put it out to them. And I give them a chance to get back to me. Right. And until I'm frustrated enough that they haven't got back to me, then I'll start looking at other companies.
Go to the next.
You know why?
Sure.
Because you go with go to the best one, and then maybe but it's it's just for that reason, because it's don't be surprised that somebody reached out to you. That's what happened. They sent that inbound into you, but that's all they did, and then they moved on to another task of the day. And now all of a sudden you didn't do anything, and they forgot about it. And 2 days later. And you were the only one they reached out to, probably. Yep. Not to say that could be. Yeah. I'm just saying that could be the case, because I've had that. Because I do.
A lot of people A lot of people get frustrated though too, where as soon as they put in a demo request, they get a phone call, right?
Yeah.
Some people don't like it. It's also the other side where I have gotten to it as soon as it's come in and they're annoyed, right? They're like, dude, I just put it in, give me a minute. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, like, oops.
Well, it's like
sorry, I was trying to help you solve your problem.
Well, there's also the technology that'll let us know if somebody's been to our website, and I hate calling those people because to me it's creepy, you know.
Yeah.
Well, don't
It's
be.
weird,
I
right?
mean,
You
I
get
probably
stalkers,
wouldn't.
you know?
Oh no,
So-
I'd call them while they're on our website.
Absolutely.
If I can see it, I'm calling them.
Absolutely. So we have Topher. We demoed it for Topher. We have a tool that you could see when they're on the site. You can see everything they're doing on the site. You can see their cursor, and you can engage with them either chat, voice, or video upon request. And
Do you ask them what they're wearing?
The conversion rate on those, if you can get them on the phone, like if you can get them on the video or on the phone or like vocal, because voice is not easy, right? Because voice is just a voice, which is weird. But like people might want to do that instead of typing it in. They might just talk to you.
true.
Oh, how could you help me? You know, and it's amazing.
How often, when they're on the site, do they actually? Because we used in one of my previous roles, we had a chat program, and same principle. You can see when they're on the site, see what they're doing. You can engage with them.
Right.
But we tried so often, and people just did not want to chat with us at all. I'm just curious if that people have seen more success than that, but we would have such a low conversion rate of people actually engaging.
Well, it's kind of like when you're at the store and somebody says, "Can I help you?" Like, I think Sephora has got two. They've got black baskets and white baskets. I don't know which one's which, but one of them signals that you're actually wanting help. The other one, leave me alone.
Oh, that's cool.
Their sales went way up when they incorporated that. It's one of the simplest solutions I've ever heard of. But I mean, that's really it's really a great idea, though. You know,
it's a mind game, actually. It's a mind tickle because the fact that they're giving you both of those options, it makes it it's a less of a barrier to entry. It's less friction for them to actually say yes.
Yep.
Because you're actually giving them the no option, but then they're like, "Oh, sure, I could chat with you."
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
No,
like
that's
that
cool.
idea.
Way to signal it, you know, versus.
No, but you're right,
having to
Chris.
try to
Most of
figure out who
them,
to
I would
talk
say,
to.
Chris, I'd say 90% didn't chat with us. I think I got, over the course of us been using it, maybe one person to allow me to video chat or voice chat, not video. And yeah, it's you know what I do with it is the back end stuff, right? They were on the site, they were on it for 26 seconds, they looked at this page and this page, and it's not like I'm Sandy calling them up and being like I said earlier today. I said, you know, I remember that Gabrielle Blackwell does this a lot when she does cold calls, and she's like, "Oh, I saw you interacting with our content." That was like I heard her do one of these shows, and she said it a million times, so I remember it. But like, you could say that it's maybe not that creepy. If I got on the phone and I said, "I saw you were on this page in my website," that's a little freaky. But I think, you know, at the same time as this, you know, like the other day I demoed GAN.ai. You should check that out. GAN is, for, you know, what Annapreet said to me when I said, "Well, what's been the feedback?" You know, is do people think it's, you know, because it's a video, it's not creepy, but it's like, even if people realize that maybe it's a bulk video that just replaces the name, it's really good. It's way better than Potion ever was or anything like that. But you might have people who are turned off. They think, oh, it's a bulk email. But there are a lot of people out there who would actually have respect for you using the latest and greatest technology to get to them. So,
well, there was a template. I saw an email template go around at one point that literally said like, "Hey, I saw you interacting with like this and something super specific," and then in brackets it was like, "Yeah, don't worry, that's just our marketing magic, like doing its thing or something," and it kind of made light of it. I was like, "Yeah, you know what? At this
especially
point,
if you're selling marketing or sales services and you've been able to do that. You know how many times I've been on a discovery call? In fact, one of our best customers, when we landed that customer and I was on the call and he says, "Well, what," you know, several times throughout the call, he's like, "What separates you guys from anybody else?" Right. And, you know, we went through a couple of responses and iterations, and, you know, finally I was like, "Me, I got you on the phone, didn't I?" I'm selling SDR services. So I'm like, I got you on the phone and I got you sitting here, didn't I? And he was like, where do I sign? I mean, not like that, but like, and so he wasn't like, I'll sign the contract right now.
We get people
No, but he
that ask. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark. I didn't mean.
No, I was just gonna say people respect, good work, due diligence.
So
we have people that are asking about phone numbers sometimes. How did you get my phone number? Or
that's what I was about to
Are
say.
you impressed or pissed off?
I get that every day.
There's
Were
this
you
thing that
impressed or
Al
pissed
Gore
off?
invented called the internet.
I say my favorite line is to say, "Are you near a window? Look out your window. You see that white van on the corner?" Zach and I were testing yellow pages. Problem with the yellow pages is that if you're sub like 30 years old, you probably don't get it because you never used the yellow pages. So.
Right.
I know what it is.
Actually,
I know you know what it is, but the affinity for understanding how frustrating yellow pages was compared to what you have now. That's all we had at one point. Like I remember selling in high school. I remember selling like a backyard deck building services or whatever it was, and like I was selling 2 backyard deck building companies, right? And that's what I went to the yellow pages and I just ripped out all of those out of the phone booth in New York. Yep. The phone booth used to have those.
Yeah, that's the thing with the chain. Remember
the chain? It was on a chain, and you opened it up and it had the white and the yellow pages.
Yep.
And you know how many pages were ripped out of that shit, though? Until they figured out you should put it in plastic.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and then they started being attached to the machine like by a chain and had like a whole plastic book.
It was always attached to the machine. It wasn't even a chain. It was like it was a way to like pick it up like right underneath the phone and like open it up so it wouldn't fall down, and it was just so awkward. Yeah, but I remember those. In fact, I was just talking about it earlier that all of the payphones in New York City, so when they were built, they were put in with like these sleeves, like these steel bolted sleeves that were like poured into the concrete. So today, all the phones are gone and the posts are gone, but there's that stump, that little tiny stump. And I used to sit up against the wall of the building and watch how many people would trip over that thing all the time. Like it's just crazy. Like there is still a couple of phones though out there.
We've got 2 payphones that I know of in New Orleans that are still working, which is mind blowing. But yeah, we still got 2.
Well, check this out. You got Lydia Hutchison in here coming to the party.
Lydia.
What's going on?
I'm back.
Back again.
Unfortunately, I have no West Coast leads to call. So if anybody wants me to call their leads, send them over.
Yeah, it's like I was calling my West Coast lead.
Gets a little late now, right? It's 3:00
Yeah.
PT, which is like 6:00 Eastern.
Yeah.
So now most of the East Coasters are just tuning in, hanging out, cooking dinner, listening in.
I'm
It's
here
us
to
West
chill.
Coasters that are holding it. Yeah, there you go.
That's a monster island, and she's got in the back.
I know.
Yeah, that's real. Is it real? Are we
It
looking
is.
at a real?
It's
Oh, okay.
It's my kitchen. Here's my
Holy.
We all thought it was
So
a
many
background
people
earlier.
have really
can't do
good
that.
So many
That
people
was
have
the
really good
circles
virtual
in it.
backgrounds, so you can never tell sometimes.
No, it's definitely real. It's super fun when my husband wants to come in and get something to drink or something. I'm like, stay out.
Stay out. You're not allowed in your own kitchen right now. Get out of here.
Well, I mean, he's downstairs working, and they have if you missed it earlier, I live in the mortuary that my husband manages. So yeah, it's funny. He'll come up to go to the bathroom. He'll come up to get food. I'm like, I don't come in your office and do things that I need to do during the day. Stay away.
So hold on a minute. We got to break this down a little bit. Are you need to tell me that you live in a house where there are dead people downstairs?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the same thing. And
I
that's
know.
why
That's
the
what she was
island is so
saying.
big. They do work
It's
in
an
the kitchen,
apartment.
Mark. The island is so big because they need it for work.
No,
Take me off the
I
screen.
live in an apartment that's above the mortuary. Yes. So downstairs is the office, a couple of chapels. Under my bedroom is the freezer. Under my kitchen is the prep room. So yes.
Oh my god.
Prep
So
room?
did you have somebody come in and like cleanse the spirit in the house? Like
I didn't.
You might consider that.
I haven't felt anything weird, and I
weird.
have 2 dogs that haven't like picked up on anything. And my mother-in-law lived
Yeah, they
here before
would. The
me.
dogs would.
Yeah. So I
Mhm.
mean, I feel fine. I'm more afraid of the living than I am the dead. So
As you should be.
Yeah, it should be.
No,
Yeah.
I'm very spiritual and like
I am too.
spiritualistic
If I
like that.
felt it,
So I
I
would
would
think
have.
like, wow,
Yeah.
that would freak me out.
No,
I've got a Palo Santo kit and a sage kit from my sister. My sister
Oh,
is
good.
crafty. My brother-in-law is a horticulturist, so they're all into that stuff. So yeah. But
I've got
no, it's
something
There's a
in
funny
my
movie.
apartment.
What do you got,
something in my
Sandy?
apartment. I don't know.
What?
Well, somebody died here almost exactly 13 months ago in my place, and there's strong evidence that it's haunted by this friend of mine now. It's very
well, that's
strange.
the thing is, I'm thinking if people are going to haunt, they're going to haunt where they died, not the mortuary.
No.
Right, they're not going to worry about the mortuary.
I
Nobody's hanging
still
out
will
around
not
there.
go downstairs
Their
after
spirit
dark.
doesn't even know it's there.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I think there's that because they're coming into your space, so to speak, very soon after they pass. So that's where I got curious about how it may have not necessarily left its own.
It's possible, yeah. Sometimes, especially
kinda
with
hanging
some
around.
cultures, like they have to do it within 24 hours.
Yeah.
I do have a funny story. One time we came home and I heard this like chanting, and it was the weirdest thing. And I was so creeped out. It was nighttime, and it was definitely coming from downstairs. And I thought it was crazy. I didn't say anything. I waited, and then finally I was like, okay, what the hell is going on? Well, some cultures because they can't in modern day really sit with the departed for long periods of time, they put like a little box that does chants in their casket. So that's what we were hearing was the chanting on this little music box.
Not creepy at all.
Could you imagine walking around downstairs and you're looking at all these caskets and you're like, what the fuck? Like, and all of a sudden you open one and it's like, there's music playing.
I won't go down there by myself.
That is
hell
the
no.
biggest nope of all time. I would have just left. I would have walked out.
Well,
There's a
on the
funny
flip
movie
side,
on
you guys
Netflix.
probably would have an amazing Halloween party
there.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
I've tried, but my husband thinks it's not good for business. So
No, it's not good. Nah, it's not good for karma either. Probably.
yeah.
There's a funny
Well,
movie
that's
that just
wonderful.
came out on Netflix that says We Have a Ghost, and it's hilarious. Oh my God, Lydia,
gotta
I
watch
died.
that.
It was a really good movie. But yeah, they move into
There's a
this
show called
house.
Ghost.
There's a good, Ghost.
I
They
like this
have
show.
a ghost in the attic.
So I live in New Orleans, and houses that are listed for sale, a lot of them will have on the listing sign, like usually in most cities, it's got the realtor's phone number. It'll say not haunted on how like listings because we have so many
a lot
freaking
of
weird
black magic.
things down here.
There's a ton of history there.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's I've got other stories I can't tell right now either.
I went into a store. I went into a store in the French Quarter, not the French Quarter, in like the Bourbon Street area. You know.
Yeah, that's French Quarter.
Oh yeah. I thought that where the more of the jazz stuff. Somebody was saying that's kind of like more.
Frenchman Street is now where most of the live music is, which is in the Marigny, which is the next neighborhood over.
Oh, the Marigny, that's what it was called. Yeah, the French Quarter is where Bourbon is, right?
Yeah.
And so there was a couple of odd, like stores, you know, with that like black magic type of stores. And my wife wandered into one of them, and it smelled good in there. I'll tell you that.
So those are called
I don't know what I was looking at.
Candles and herbs and like voodoo dolls. Seriously,
Voodoo. Yeah, that's what a voodoo place. That's what I was trying. That was the word I was looking for.
Yep.
They're into that voodoo stuff.
It's a very interesting place to live, for sure.
Oh man, I would.
That's crazy.
My wife actually, I didn't think she was going to enjoy it so much. She wants to go back. I've been there twice. I have a lot of fun.
Interesting. New Orleans is pretty much a city that people are not ambivalent about. They either love it or they hate it because there's a lot to hate. But it's it's dirty. It's but that's part of its charm is it's a little bit rough.
At the same time, you could walk down the street after like in the morning. And call it 11 o'clock in the morning. I remember it was a Tuesday, 11 o'clock in the morning. It definitely smelled like beer and piss in the street. But there was a band jamming out, rock band on the stage. Nobody in the place. Me and my wife went in there. Maybe two other people are in there. And where else can you walk out of your hotel on Tuesday morning at 11:30 and see a rock
That's
band
cool.
play.
Yeah. I mean, I could. There's live music now that now
24/7.
we're back to 24/7 with live music now. We weren't for a while.
Oh, great!
But
Yeah,
it's awesome.
So great.
My son, grew up here. He's a freshman in college now in Baltimore. But yeah, my son is a pretty good musician, but he plays 5 instruments. And growing up in any other city, he wouldn't play 5 instruments. And
let alone one.
No, it's just and he's got he's been to he's 18 and he's been to about 620 shows.
Wow.
And he's got Wilco gear that he bought directly from Jeff Tweedy because he works for the same record store that Jeff Tweedy worked for in St. Louis.
600 shows.
Yeah, it's Mark. It's a problem.
600 shows of famous bands.
All kinds of bands.
Okay, well, I don't care. I think about because I have several bands that I personally listen to.
And Fish, I think, right?
Yeah, so between Dead, Fish, and Pearl Jam and Dave Matthews, I've probably seen 300 shows, but
wow,
certainly not 600 shows. But if I add all the little shows, like the no-name bands, I couldn't even count. I wouldn't. I don't have records of them.
There's some app now called I forgot what it's called, but it's you can put in the show, the name of the band, and the venue, and keep track of your comings and goings. Yeah. And
I saw 75 Dead shows before Jerry died, and then since I've probably
20,
seen.
I think.
It's probably like 20 since, and then
Dead and Company's playing. Jazz
Pearl
Fest
Jam
this
I've seen 30 times. I've seen. Yeah. Oh my God, how many concerts? I can't even imagine. Maybe I am up in that 600 range. I don't know.
Yeah,
for an 18-year-old kid, I'm 50.
Yeah, he's got. I think he's been to 24 Wilco shows, and he's going to see them next weekend. But Jeff Tweedy worked for the same record store. Well, it was in St. Louis, but same in New Orleans. Alex worked for that show or for the same store, and so the manager in New Orleans introduced him to Jeff Tweedy. So they're friends now. It's like insane. He just got a piece of equipment from Jeff last week. He FedExed it to him. It's this old synthesizer that is missing part. Part of it's missing, but Jeff gave it to him. So, but he's friends with some woman named St. Vincent. That's not a real name, but she's got some band that I'm not familiar with. But he went and saw her in Ireland and in Paris this past summer. So my kid's doesn't have a bad life. I would.
You had Marty McArthur on this morning. Oh, I missed him. Man. I love that guy.
Who? This morning?
Marty McArthur.
Oh yeah, Martin was here. Yep, Martin was here. Martin came through and rolled some dials with us and chatted it up. He was here. Topher, how's your Central
earlier?
Coast doing?
I wanted to say to you earlier today, both you and Ronan had
for me. So,
sorry.
I'm just working on some email follow-ups and stuff. I'm done calling for now because it's after 5 in my territory.
Yep.
I said earlier you got a couple of wrong people on the phone. Yeah. Lately I've been getting for example, earlier I just called somebody and it was, it wasn't this particular name, but it was Steve McKay, right? It was a Steve, but not Steve McKay, right?
That happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
And then
I get first and last name sometimes.
Yes.
It's not the right person.
Yep.
So I got this meeting, right, with Ron. It was Ron Hicks, but it wasn't the Ron Hicks that was on my screen. Right. And I was like, it was weird. But I rolled with it. And so earlier when you guys had that, I was going like this. I was like, flip it. Just ask him who he is and what he does. Because even if it's the wrong number,
it's still a connect. Right.
If I can impress upon anybody.
Deals too. Sometimes they're like, oh no, I'm still a director too. Yeah. It works.
I said it. I literally went through this it was same first name, same last name, went through my whole spiel, checked off everything. He's like, cool. Yeah, I'd love to learn more. And then when I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to send you the invite. Just want to confirm I got the right email, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, no, you got the wrong guy. And I was like, well, this sure worked out in my favor, didn't it? So then I got his information and booked the meeting. It was insane.
Yeah, I did that once too.
I'm sure it'll never happen again, but it was very funny.
Well, I think when I did it, it was the same name, first and last, both work for Amazon. One was in
that's-
Ireland and one was in Austin. I thought I was talking to somebody in Ireland, and it was the one in Austin who I didn't have in my. But yeah, that happened like 3 months ago.
I think sometimes the data providers mix them up.
And I confirmed that this was actually 2 people from Amazon, both of the same name, both same titles essentially. Slight difference in the titles.
Weird.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell you guys something you probably don't know. Like Zoom Info, right? We're working with Zoom Info now, and Zoom Info has 2 modes on the Chrome extension. It has 20% and 80%, right? So 20% is just like when you click on the Chrome that's sitting on the side of your page, it only pulls up like a panel, right? And there's data in the panel on that particular. Like say you're on LinkedIn, somebody's LinkedIn page. It'll give you the data on the panel, right? Now, when you open it up to 80%, the reason why I know this is because we like to attach campaigns to when we download or export to Salesforce. We wanted to go to a Salesforce campaign because I outsource sales. We have multiple clients. We need to have the attribution. So we want to go to campaign. Campaign is only available to attach it to a campaign is only available in the 80%. Problem is when you look in 20%, there's data there. And then when I open it up into 80%, sometimes that data is not there, right? It's only like maybe the HQ number. And the reason being is what they tell us is that's not verified in the 20%. It's almost like an algorithmic guess on the number. So if you export from like the 20%, and the same could happen in some cases with various other data sources. So you export that one that's not necessarily verified, right? Or human verified, or even algorithmically verified. And all of a sudden that's why you get these kinds of things, right?
Is there no scale, Mark, that you can select? Like, I want this percentage of accuracy. You can't do that.
Not on Zoom Info, but I do know that.
I know.
You could do that in like Apollo and the other ones. Yeah. You could do it
well,
in the other ones, but Zoom doesn't.
They'll give you all the results, but you could parse out the ones that are above 90% or 98 or whatever it is. But they'll give you them all, and then they'll rank them.
Swordfish works too, I think.
Exactly. But it's great that you did that, Lydia, because what it shows is that you were just into finding out about that person and what their problem is and whether or not you could solve it, and the name really didn't matter.
Yeah,
and if you think about all your if you think about all your calls like that, whether it's a wrong number or not, you'll probably be able to do that. And like I do that a lot. I'll flip because I have multiple clients. And a lot of these clients maybe have the same ICP, like CEOs. And so if I can just get a CEO to start talking to me, he might tell me he needs help in HR, score, finance, score, sales, score, or anything else that maybe you can help him with, or Topher can help him with, or Tom, or Chris, or Sandy, or whatever. Because I'm apt to say to him, well, you know what? I can't help you, but I actually know somebody who can. So if you just open yourself up to being that kind of vulnerable to the conversation, so much more
knowing your personas really helps. This guy actually was kind of more on the customer side, and it didn't actually end up going anywhere, but he was intrigued enough to listen.
Yeah. I mean, like, this guy is a different Ron Hicks, but I mean, if not for the fact that he is kind of too early in his company right now, I probably would have set the meeting today, so, but yeah, run with it. I would say that. Yeah. Why waste that? Because does anybody ever really, and I know you do, Tom, maybe to a certain degree, or at least you may have done the math, but what is that one pickup actually cost you?
Yeah.
Right.
Don't let it go.
Right.
Don't let it
go. Because that's the truth, though.
Like,
think about those who do manual dials or can't amplify their dials, right? If they're doing 2 hours worth of dialing and finally get that connect, that's frustrating, right, Mark? You've sat there, you've been dying to get that call, and then you do, and you immediately hang up and let it go because the person wasn't right. Dig in a little bit more. Well, hey, Mark, since I have you, I'm curious. What do you do? And they're like, oh, I'm a director over here. Oh, that's awesome. How are you guys doing? And then next thing you know, so what? Like, just because the data wasn't incorrect doesn't mean this person still isn't a viable lead. Find out. It's a really good point.
Chances are too, though. Yeah, the likelihood that you're the first person they've heard from who's looking for the other person is slim. Like, most people I've had it happen to me with are like, at this point, either where the hell are you getting my data? And I gladly tell them, you should call them and tell them that this isn't really you. Or it's a laugh, like, oh my God, you're the third person who's called me today. And I'm like, well, let's have some fun with it. I mean,
one thing that Mark just said that I think resonated with me.
Right.
was also like when you're trying to uncover pain and your solution doesn't match the pain they have. I mean, I'm going to start referring stuff to people like he just said, because it's hard enough to get somebody on the phone. But if you can get somebody on the phone and say, look, I can't help you with what your issues are right now, but I know Chris can.
Yeah.
They're going to take Chris's call, you know, and I believe in karma. I think that, you know, when you do things that when you're kind, that it comes back to you.
For sure.
Somehow. So
Spades.
thanks for that, Mark. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, it's important to realize we work so hard at this job that, you know, you take for granted sometimes those kinds of things, and you just go by, you know, it just kind of goes by you and you don't think about it. And like, I mean, as much as there's so many companies out there whose leadership micromanage, I certainly don't want to be micromanaged right down to the connect. Like, you have to convert on that connect. You know, I mean, but
why did you book
like,
that? Why did you book that?
I mean,
it's a coachable moment.
Yeah, and I think I said this morning. I don't know if this is if I said it here. I've had a lot of one-on-ones with people in the last couple of days, but I think what really keeps me from burning out and getting like too much head trash about myself, or I suck, and this, because everybody goes through that, right? Even no matter how much experience you have, if you have a run of bad calls like in a row, it's definitely it kind of weighs a little bit. But I think one of the things that I've been able to think about is that, because it happens every day, is I always eventually get a good call. And even if it doesn't turn into a meeting, right? It was a good conversation. It was they finished the call and they said, "Thanks, Mark. Have a nice day." Or
you have to celebrate that stuff. You have to.
And it makes the 6 other calls where I just got blown out because my pitch was horrible, or this or that or whatever it was. It doesn't matter to me anymore, because what I then realize is, if you listen to the good calls that you've had, and you listen to the calls that you say are bad because they hung up on you or they blew you out or whatever, however you want to phrase it, I bet you your pitch is exactly the same. It's not you, typically. It's the other person on the other side of the line that's either woke up on the wrong side of the bed, has too much on their plate, isn't the right decision maker, has no money, just got cold called by 6 other people, whatever it is. It's always them. Keep that in mind. If you keep that in mind, I think that, you know, you can have a run of bad calls, and then eventually, you know, have faith. You're always going to have that next call that's going to go better. I mean, it happens every day. And the moment my head starts to spin a little with a bunch of calls where I'm just like, because I don't have a phone to slam down anymore, but like, I want to trust me, in my day, I broke a few. Like I wanted, but then I go, let me make another call and let me see how that one goes. And then the next call, eventually, like when I'm at that like tipping point, I make that next call and it works out okay. It ends well. And I'm like, see, none of those things really matter, you know? And if you can get yourself to that point, I think burnout doesn't even become an issue.
Yeah,
it doesn't, because it's going back to enjoying the process, right? It's you know, it's enjoying the growth and the fun and what we all do. Because if you get hung up on the bad calls or the bad outcomes, it can get really a struggle position, right? You get very annoyed, you get frustrated, you get burnt out. It's a tough gig. You've got to be open to growth. You've got to be open to enjoying the process. And like you said, Mark, like, calls happen to us all. We all today, right? I've had more not luck than the calls, right? I've had bad data. I've had the wrong people today, or it's taking forever to get the connects, and you got to let go of all that, right? And just have fun in the process. And most of the time, these people are just having a bad day. It has literally nothing to do with you. You call again in a week and they don't even remember talking to you. You know, it's like, hey, it's Tom from SE Lab, and they're like, I don't know who you are, you know?
One of the things
you're right, Lydia. Tomorrow you can call them, they'll forget.
Totally. No, for real, yeah.
Oh, I've used the other side of them. They're like, oh yeah, we talked last week. And they're like, did we? Okay. And then it just gets them, it gets their mind, like it snaps them, like, wait, did we actually talk next week? And then I just go into my regular pitch. I don't use it that often, but I've used it.
But you could go like, you should go like, we talked last week and you hung up on me.
Just call it out.
I don't know. That's brave of you, but I'm a firm believer in bad juju. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. But good for you, Topher.
Well, there's also a good possibility that I did call them last week. So
Yeah.
You probably did.
Well, you know, one thing that Mark just said also that I think people that have not been doing this for very long, sometimes they make an incorrect choice in their judgment, I believe. Changing your script around all the time because you had a bad day. I hear about that happening way too much. And it's a terrible idea, in my opinion. Now, again, it's my opinion. I mean, I think
Can you say it one more time, Sandy?
Go ahead, Sandy, one more time.
So, if somebody has a bad day or even a bad week for that matter, I see people changing their scripts tremendously. Like, I'm not talking about little tweaks. I'm talking about scrapping the whole thing and starting over. And I just think that you're letting emotions dictate your behavior and not your intellect in that situation. Because if you've got a script that's worked for you for a while, it's probably not the script. It's probably not you. It's probably just like Mark said, there's always things we have no control over. If we focus on what we do control, which is, can you smile? Can you have gratitude for the job you do have, and give thanks to that, then I think you'll be okay. You may not be okay the way you want to be, like on the day you want to be, but you'll be okay.
I'd still be mindful of the flip side though. Like Tom knows this. I've been struggling hard at Hypercare. We're category creation. Like, this is tough. I don't have a list of pains that people just generally know about. Like, we're getting there. We're making progress. But long story short, like, I have built this talk track, which it never worked for me. So that's the difference, Sandy, is I never really was like hitting it out of the park. But I called Josh Brown this morning and was like, dude, help me out. Like, something's not working here. And he's kind of like, okay, let's unpack. Let's go back. What's the job to be done? And then I put it together. I mean, I was just like overthinking it, and it was about me, not them. And then today I had I changed the script and I had 8 live conversations today, and was like, holy crap, this all just flowed so much more smoothly. But
sometimes you just need, like, I always believe that, I mean, maybe this could possibly be a morph of your point, Sandy, which is, I think small tweaks.
Yes.
Just try to, like, because, like, I'll hang up the call. Like, I mean, maybe, I'm certainly at a different level than some people, but with respect to, like, I was using the same thing for like 3 calls in a row. Like, I forget what it was. I remember it. Yeah. I have a very big tendency, because of the fact that so many people have changed jobs over the last so many years,
right,
that I tend to try to slow the conversation down by asking them if they're still with X.
Oh, for sure.
And I had, like, one day I was just losing people, like, right after that. They're not because they didn't work for that company, because I got it in my head that they must think that I really don't know them, which is okay, because I always say, I don't know, you don't know me.
You don't know me, yeah.
So that's not an issue, but I couldn't figure it out, and I sort of started focusing on, maybe it's like asking if they're still with the company, right? And when I dropped it, the next 5 calls went so much better.
Yeah,
so I think you can make small tweaks.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, as they say, if you're flying from LA to New York and you're 1 degree off, you end up in DC instead of New York, and it's just 1 degree. So a small difference can have a huge impact, obviously. But I think that when somebody, especially if they haven't been doing it for that long, and they're given a script or at least a framework, and they have they've got to try it for a little while.
Yeah.
Like, you can't quit after 3 days and say this is a bad script,
For sure.
No, at least a week.
Yeah, right.
I mean, give it a shot. I mean, make those personalizations. Like, they always used to be that, like, memorize, personalize, and internalize.
Yep.
And
I feel like a month is like if you've been trying it out for a month, like, you kind of don't really need it. That's when I go look at all my emails.
Well, I know of a lot of people that are very successful in what we do that started with limited to no success, but just they've trusted the process and kept at it, and they ended up doing great,
Just gotta trust the process.
You have to be careful. You have to be careful, right? You can get yourself. Well, you could get lost, right, in being paralyzed.
That requires great leadership too. Let's not be shy about saying
that's
that.
true. Right,
Yeah.
right. You got to be in an environment where you can experiment, you can test, or build a department within. I had 2 SDRs within my team of SDRs that were our testers. So we kept it to a small sample size before we rolled out, right? Because if you roll out something to everybody, it could derail your entire funnel, right? And
destroy you.
So right, if you do the wrong thing or everybody tries to do that process. So what I would do is I would have like my team lead sample stuff, a new sequence or a new cold call script. And if they could see some success, then sure, we'd roll it out. But versus, everybody. But I would look at it more of, looking at like an activity metric versus a time frame. More of like, if you do 100 call, if you've had 25 to 30 actual conversations with that script and you haven't booked a meeting, maybe talk about it, evaluate it, right? Look at it and say, okay, I've had 30 conversations and that script didn't work. Sit down with and Sandy, this goes to your point where there is a feedback loop that is needed, and this is regular one-on-ones, right? Where we're looking at your calls, we're diving into your testing of these things, and we're seeing where you're at. It just goes to leadership. There's not enough of that right now. There's not enough to where people are allowing people to fail hard and fast, try things, switch it up.
People are panicking too, and because of it, they don't have leadership in a lot of cases, and they don't have somebody say, "Look, just trust the process. It's going to work out. You're going to be fine." If you hear that from your leader, then you're what you're internalizing is a lot different than if you're like sweating, So
I think it also comes from the top down, right? Where people are looking at the economy and they're looking at this, and I don't have enough pipeline. And then it's, well, what silver bullet can I find that I can do? Oh, I can solve all the problems by let's try something different. Oh, tomorrow that didn't work. Try something different. New messaging. Try it again. Like that's.
But that used to be. That used to be the kind of rep I was. I used to get yelled at by my managers early on in my career because things would go well. I'd have 2-3 months of success. Month 4 or 5, I'd start slumping. And instead of just sticking to what I knew, I would start taking meetings with everybody. And I'd go talk to other reps. I'd go be like, what are you doing? And I'd start just switching my messaging. And I would do all this to where I would just end up in a darker hole. And so my managers would be like, dude, stop. Just right. You think you did something wrong, right? You're like, well, it's not working. I need to go talk to this person. And then your activity drops, your mindset drops. Now you're trying things that aren't you. Right. I'll go talk to Chris. Chris is like, I do this. Now I'm coming back to try that. It's not going to work for me. So it's that's where leadership comes in. Leadership is all about truly helping that person reach their potential, find success in a way that works for them. And that's where people get not that support. All of us used to be those reps. We just had to figure it out on our own. Right. There was nobody like that. Managers didn't care, and some still don't. But when you find that manager that wants to sit down with you, go through that stuff, keep you in line and say, yo, Chris, take a break. You're fine. We know your process works, man. You just booked 30 a couple months ago. Like, it's okay. Exactly. Let's just try a few, let's go through the game tape. Let's look at what you're doing. And then you find out.
You can usually find something.
Usually it's metrics, right? Knowing your formulas. It's like, okay, for the Q1, like right now, huge for anybody in the audience or watches this back, like, look at your Q1 numbers. What were your averages? What was your show rate? What were your dials? What were your conversions? And then on the months that you did terrible, look at the benchmarks, and you're going to find out that you were actually under your benchmarks, right? So you weren't laying the foundation to even give yourself a fair shot at reaching your numbers because you weren't even hitting your minimums. Guess what? The next month they go back to their minimums, they hit goal, and they're like, shit, Tom, okay. And I'm like, I told you, you just got to stay within your zone, and you weren't in your zone, right? You were off or
Sometimes
under.
Just pulling back and looking at that data, Tom, reps don't usually think to do that at their level, and that's what good managers do. Do you want to be my stand-in manager since I'm reporting to the C-suite right now?
I would love to. We'll have a weekly every Friday. We'll go over it, but it's about the data. That's why I say, Westland was here earlier, and I'm a big believer in there's science to sales, right? Before you can get to the art of it, you have to understand the science behind your own formula. Everybody has a formula, right? We all have our motion. We know what works for us. Everybody's got numbers, and numbers don't lie, right? They never will. But when you start getting creative,
with a caveat, the market conditions that we're in right now have kind of dictated that people have let their numbers be lies. I'll tell you, I've been one of those people.
Yeah.
And then now with a couple degrees change, the last 2 weeks have been back to my normal self. Nothing changed in the market. I guarantee you that nothing changed in the market in 2 weeks, but I changed because I stopped focusing on stuff that wasn't helping me. You know, it was actually hurting me.
Yep.
And,
and that's why ride-alongs are really cool. Like, I would love to sit down with my reps. Chris, you've probably done this, right? You just sit down with them for like an hour. You don't do anything. No feedback. No
Did you say
anything.
ride-along?
Oh yeah, it's a ride-along.
Yeah,
I call them ride-alongs. Yeah, ride-alongs.
The only ride-alongs I've been on, I had to sign a waiver that if I got shot.
Real ride-along.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, because when I was like leading people, we were selling face to face. There were ride-alongs because it was like, I'm getting in the car with you, and we're gonna go to your client. Where I'll just sit there quietly, like I'll jump in if I need to. But to your point, Tom, it was like, hey, let me even spend. It was like a morning usually. Let me see how you set up your day. Make some dials. Let's go see a client. Let's have lunch, and at lunch we'll debrief what I saw today.
Oh, I wish I could do that again. I used to love that, man. I used to love doing that stuff with reps.
I love doing it. Even if you're
rep.
in a virtual remote, if you're in a remote world, like Megan was earlier, her whole team, just get on a Zoom with them, have them share their screen, go through their process, and you for an hour just chill. Don't say anything in real time.
Say a word.
Don't make adjustments. You don't say a word. And then you go debrief. And I would learn so much stuff that I could fix and improve for my team and be like, did you even know, Sandy, that you could do this? And they're like, dude, I had no idea. And I'm like, boom, do this. And like, you just learn things, or you realize the whole team's doing something that like, hey guys, I didn't know this was a problem. And they're like, we didn't know it was either. And now I can go evaluate a tool or go find something to fix that so I have a better understanding, right?
You said
go ahead,
I was
Mark.
gonna say, you said that you talk about managers and coaching and training. I think, and this has become prevalent, obviously, with all the outside kind of consultants and stuff out there. I think it's important because a lot of managers are people who got promoted into management. And I'm not going to say they don't belong there. They just, in some cases, don't have the tactical knowledge or experience, or even just the skill to help, like, let's say, their team necessarily with the very intricate tactical stuff like messaging. How do you change it? How do you refocus? Like, there's a lot of managers out there that are really great cheerleaders and coaches, if you will, and like they could give you mentally the way you should be going in the right direction, and keep you kind of what's the word, grounded.
Above line.
But
grounded.
Yeah, but they may or may not actually have some of the real, call it cold call, email, tactical things that you need to tweak. And so what a really good manager will do, and this is something that, again, I mentioned Cynthia earlier today, what Cynthia has also done very well for her team is when she knows she's out of her element on something, she goes and gets an expert to help her team do it.
Wouldn't
and so, like,
guys were able to do that too. Women, that's why
I did that every Wednesday. I did that every Wednesday with my team. Since I brought in an outside source, I would either bring in an internal department, like a CSM or somebody from internal, or my friends that were at other companies that come in for an hour and just hash out on some tactical things. And the manager doesn't always have to solve the problem. And that's where people think the responsibility is like, I have to do everything.
Speaking of tactical things and training.
Yes. Good segue.
We do have Aaron Malamed here, who's going to be speaking on empathy in sales, and just going to walk us through some cold call tactics. So,
Aaron,
thank you so much
welcome,
for being
sir.
here.
Nice to meet everyone.
Yeah.
Yes. Aaron, you are an account executive, yes, with Orem, helping us learn a little bit about empathy and sales for the next hour while we kind of chop it up here as you've been seeing. And we're so excited to have you, and you and Maren kind of guide this convo. And how can we be more empathetic when we are pipeline creating and closing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll keep it limited to just on the creation, the pipeline creation part. Obviously, like, empathy is an important concept for, success in life. So I don't want to attempt to boil the ocean here, but I'm a big fan of using frameworks. And at the end of the day, if you want to scale cold calling to your team, you need to have some sort of framework. And you're basically just like inputting your variables to make the changes so it scales. And so one of the, I think there's a lot of tactics around cold calling. What I think what is an important piece of the puzzle when you are cold calling is first, like a script that puts people into identical patterns. So you can break down in a cold call into its component pieces. You have an opener, a reason for your call, and then what is important, or one like effective strategy is to have what I call like a permission-based approach, where you say, and there are debates on when you ask this question, but it starts with, would you mind if I borrowed 30 seconds to explain a little bit more, and you can let me know if you want to continue the conversation. Another flavor of that would be, would you mind if I grab 30 seconds to explain a little bit more, and you can let me know if you want to continue the conversation. There's a bunch of different ways to say that. The point is that
one of the debates that we were having earlier is we were pretty split between the group that was cold calling today on whether or not you do research on the prospect before you hop into that call. Can you get your
I'll
opinion on
answer that one. I got a strong opinion on that one. I guess maybe before I answer, why wouldn't you do research?
A lot of the argument is the same as like with video prospecting. That person needs to earn your time.
You mean your prospect needs to earn your time?
If you're spending, 10 minutes researching that prospect before you get into the call and they don't answer for 3 months,
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Okay. Gosh, I would love to go into that now. Should I go into that now, or should I talk more about the permission strategy? I like what is most interesting right now?
Give us your 2 cents.
Yeah.
What do we think, guys?
Oh, I think
it's good.
I do I mean, we have notes and all sorts of stuff from previous outreach, or we have notes about the company in general, like that's up on the screen while we're making calls. So if I don't have that, then I will. I'll at least do a quick LinkedIn search or something. But because the market I'm calling into and the vertical I'm calling into is so niche, like everyone has the same problems. It's just their blue is green instead, or whatever. Like it's not. I understand the common pain points. So
yeah, so I'll just give my my quick answer on that. As a general principle, I mean, certainly if you're calling to the enterprise, you need to have some sort of like pre-research. I think what the mistake people make is like over-researching. And the reality is that you need to boil things down to whatever, if you're positive business outcome you get for this particular persona or vertical. And at the end of the day, like your people are going to fall into the similar patterns. So you just have to have your solution hypothesis prepared. That's not hard and should not take a long time. And then I think a lot of people think it's important to have LinkedIn profiles and, hey, I went to the same college as you. It's not very value oriented. So I've never been a super fan of that. I think the only research you need to have are like, what are the previous conversations you've had? What is your solution hypothesis for the business? And is there some sort of relevant trigger that has like prompted the call that like not every prospect is going to have though. So if you're spending half an hour on research for a call, you're probably over researching it. The reality is that if you could efficiently research every prospect, and you can, this is a bigger discussion, then like the cost of doing research is not that much. But I think some people over research or either inefficient about the research. But I do think that you got to come to the call with a perspective on the solution hypothesis for the persona or vertical. And if you have other conversations with other people, you should be bringing those up. That's a miss if you don't. So that's kind of like my position on the pre-research. Jumping back to like permission. When you ask that question, would you mind if I borrow 30 seconds to, explain a little bit more? I think it's important because you're lowering the blood pressure. And, if someone cold calls me out of the blue, my blood pressure's up. I'm like, I don't want to have this call right now.
Yeah.
Why'd you answer?
Yeah. What's that?
Why'd you answer the call?
I'm sorry. Like I answered it.
No, why?
No, why? If you
Why
don't
did you
want
pick
it,
up?
why did you pick up if you don't know the number?
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a gotcha there. Like, haha, I gotcha. Why'd you answer the phone? So like,
Oh, I wouldn't use. I'm not saying I use that as a response. I'm saying, like, that wouldn't have been my response. Like, why did you pick up the phone?
Yeah.
No. I'm saying to you, like, on a side note, I would.
Yeah. So I think like, the answer is like I answered because I don't know, I'm a human and I was curious for that moment, which is I think the reason why most people answer the phone. And then you think it's something super relevant to you. You think it's someone else, or and so they realize it's not that thing that you thought it was, or your curiosity has ended. And so if we can just ask for 30 seconds to proceed, lower the blood pressure. Suddenly if we show like common courtesies to folks on the phone, suddenly you start getting those common courtesies returned to you. And I think that's kind of one, just an important strategy. Now, here's an interesting question for the group. Here's one way to start off. You go with your opener. Hey, this is Aaron calling from Orem. It's great to connect with you. How are you doing today? How are you doing today, Joe? Would you mind if I borrow 30 seconds to explain a little bit more, and you can let me know if you want to continue? Do you put the permission there? Or I prefer to put it later after you've given a little flavor about what it is you actually do. Does anyone have an opinion?
Yes.
One way or the other? I would love to hear that.
I'm going to jump right in here because I think if you ask that permissive ask too late, it's a waste. They're already talking to you. And I've done it. And I've gotten bitten multiple times where they're like, you've already wasted 30 seconds of my time. Now you're asking me for another 30 seconds. So you have to be careful there, right? I think coming up front with it is more of like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Great. Do you mind if I tell you why I'm called? Do you mind if I take a couple seconds to tell you why I'm called? Even there, I've gotten people to say, I've already answered. Why do you, it's like, I've literally, like you said, you answered the phone because you're curious, right? To see who it is or whatever. I've literally had, if people are going into the call with that, then they're already sold. Like you already have the permission to talk. Why ask for it again? Now, I'm also a believer that, when you interrupt somebody, my mother always said, you should say, excuse me. So I think, you could take that, like I'll make a joke like that sometimes when I do the permissive ask, especially if they come back with that kind of rebuttal, like, well, you already got me on the phone. I was like, well, my mother always tells me I should, and then they chuckle and they give me more. So
I'm a big believer in not using permission-based openers, right? It's my truth, Aaron. Like I just, I get right to it, right? Because I believe that a cell phone, you have the right to pick up that call. Yes, right? It's not intrusive. It's not a forced call. You have the right to pick it up. So I think, coming right into it and saying, hey, Aaron, it's Tom. Do you have a moment and I could tell you why I'm calling? Just tell them why you're calling. Hey, Aaron, it's Tom with SD Lab. The reason for my call is this, and get to it versus already answering and kind of getting a no, right? Because if I say, hey, do you have a minute? What are you going to say? No, I don't. And then what do I say? Oh, okay, well, see you later. It kind of shoots you in the foot, right? Versus just getting right into the call because they made that authorization.
It's about the
Tone,
person
style.
who's delivering it and your tone and your style. Up until 6 months ago, and I've been cold calling for 14, 15 years. Up until 6 months ago, literally, I hated permission-based openers because it's the same thing. Like, what do you care? You're going to say something anyway. And then I kind of like repositioned it to like what Marin does. It's like, hey, I know you weren't expecting my call, blah, blah, blah. 9 times out of 10, people say, yes, go right ahead. Yeah. And it's better than them interrupting me mid-spiel and going like, wait, hold on. Where are you calling from? What do you want? What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
I think it's just all about the person who's doing it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So,
style.
Here's how this goes in my world, which is like, hey, this is Aaron calling from Orem. It's nice to connect with you, Joe. How are you doing today? Yeah, and I get one of two responses. I'm doing great. How are you? Or I'm sorry, who is this again? Yeah, my name is Aaron. The reason for my call is I saw that you're heading up sales development over at XYZ Company. I just want to very briefly introduce Orem. We're a solution that helps your reps get more conversations over the phone. Do you mind if I borrow 30 seconds to explain a little bit more? You let me know if you want to continue. I get two things from there. Yes or an objection. And so the important piece there is it funnels people to in the same pattern over and over again. And to me, that is a very, very like scalable way to then like teach other people. As long as people give, as long as your prospect goes to the same thing over and over again.
Do you not think that it's kind of off-putting to just start with, I'm calling because I want to introduce, I'm genuinely asking because I want to introduce my company. Like, I don't know, if that was me, I'd be like, I don't care what you want. Like, why are you calling me? Right?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, that's why you gotta flip it and make it about them, right? Like it's all about putting the limelight on the prospect. Like, hey Lydia, it's Tom with the SD Lab. The reason for my call is, an input trigger prospecting, what I call it, right? What's the trigger? What led me to believe I should call you, and what do I want to do to help solve for you, right? And then that'll get your attention versus pitch slapping and being like, well, the reason for my call is to tell you how great this company is. Of course, nobody wants that either. That's just as bad as kind of saying, do you have a few moments for me to tell you why I called, right? I think it comes with experience, though.
The problem illumination, right? Because you're trying to identify problem. So, my biggest go-to a lot of times is, hey, John, how you doing? Great. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it. Look, the reason I'm reaching out, a lot of my clients, they tell me that they struggle or are challenged by X. Some actually tell me they're really more challenged by Y. And then, of course, others are challenged by Z. Any of that kind of happening over there? And so that's all about them, right? It's all about, you kind of are testing to see because you could solve a couple of different kind of little problems within the bigger problems. So it's like you're trying to test that. And that's a good way, because some people are very receptive to that. They're like, but oftentimes I'll get, no, I'm not suffering from any of that. And then I'm easily pivoting to, okay, well, what are you challenged by today, right? And so then,
but it's also okay not to be able to help them. Like, everyone's getting the job done, and they're not always going to want what you have, and that's okay too.
Well, that's a key
thing.
And
I've actually used that, Lydia, and I pivoted a little bit with one of my clients to really actually, and I think I said this earlier today or this afternoon, is I'm actually asking if they fit what I'm looking for as far as because the company I'm working with, like, they really can't add value unless you're over $10 million in revenue and you're an aggressive and determined owner that wants to double or triple their business in the next few years. Like, I don't want a CEO who's got a lifestyle business who's really looking to grow 2% next year. I'm looking at somebody who wants to grow 200% next year, right? And so I'm leading my calls now with saying those kinds of qualifying things. Hey, let me ask you a question. Are you, are you looking to actually, double or triple your revenue in the next few years? I mean, right out the gate. Because if they don't, then I know where I could place them. Yeah. It's like disqualifying them out. I said earlier, like, I talked to this woman where I came in with what I read about her, and I kind of morphed a pitch towards her because I thought, well, she wants to grow her business, but it seemed like she just wanted to keep it more family, and she was afraid to go to private equity because typically when you go to private equity, you become CEO employee, right? And so I tried to use that. And she's not afraid to go to the capital market. She just doesn't need the money. She's happy growing at whatever 3% or 5% every year, and that's that. So she disqualified herself. She literally said to me, "I don't think this is a good. I don't think we're a right fit for you." She said to me. And so I think if you flip it that way sometimes and really just kind of give them what you're looking for, sometimes that works. Like it could work for you. And again, to your point, style and tonality is a whole lot part of the game. I did want to answer your question that you asked, Aaron, which is you were saying, like, the research, right? I think if you are, like you're saying, if you've got the right variables on the persona in that framework, then doing the research, unless you can do it within a couple of seconds and build a process with that, it's useless, especially if you're going after a large group of people. If you're doing an ABM approach, enterprise, you don't necessarily have to do that. You could do a little bit more homework. But when I think about process, like when I'm going through to customize an email, which is usually my first step, so that this way when I do get them on the phone, I have some like research knowledge, but it's all in one thing. It's like, what do you go first? You go to their LinkedIn page. I look for certain things in their LinkedIn page. Then I go to their website. I look for certain things in their website because I know my framework about how I'm going to pitch it. And then I take those pieces out, and it's like maybe, I don't know, 2.5 minutes it takes me, to maybe look through that 2.5 to 3 minutes or so, I think. And then you make the call. The problem even with doing that, though, again, like you said earlier, it's like, or somebody said,
Mark,
which is,
I'm so sorry. I'm going to cut you off so we can get through these questions and stay on time. But Aaron,
I was just wrapping it up. I was just going to say, like,
you were going.
You're good. You're good.
I'm gonna
Don't
jump,
worry.
guys. Thank you so much.
Later.
Bye, Lydia. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So Aaron, how are the reps?
Yeah. No, I can go through some of those questions. No worries.
Yeah.
So I think a big like category is objection handling, and it's important that your cold calling funnels people into a pattern where objection comes in the same place. When you get an objection, like what are some ways that you can acknowledge or empathize with the prospect? Like what are some ways to succinctly say that, or lines that you've used to start off how you handle the objection that maybe you found successful in the past? So someone says, please send me some information. Or someone says, you know what, I don't have any budget. How can, what is a line that that can instantly let the prospect know that you are listening to them, maybe caught them out of the blue? Like, what do you think?
I usually do like the AAA method: address, acknowledge, and align, right? So I immediately kind of let them know, like, hey, Aaron, I totally get it. Most people are very similar. They want that email. They want me to send more information, right? I address it, and then I acknowledge it, and then I align the conversation back, right? But it at least lets them know, I heard you, Aaron, I get it. You want the email. A lot of people want the email. What could I do to make that more relevant to you? I probably assume you say that to a lot of reps. You get a lot of emails. What catches your attention? Would you like a one-pager? Do you want a case study? And then get them talking, right? And then, align that conversation back to a question. Hey, would love to send you that email, Aaron. I'll send you over some case studies. But while I have you here for a minute, mind if I ask you, what are you doing in your outbound process right now? And then just kind of realign. But you just want to acknowledge, right? And address it. But acknowledging really lets them know you heard them. And then trying to find a way to let them know that there is relatability. And I know you feel this way, or I know this objection because everybody else has this one too. Let me resonate with you on that, and let me show you how we can get past that, or how others have overcome that concern.
On email,
we lost her. We lost him. He froze. He froze. He'll be back.
What I was going to say was that I use if somebody says send me some information, usually it's just a brush off. Sometimes they really want information, but sometimes that's the only way they know how to say no. So I let them off the hook. I say, look, I'm a big boy. If you don't want me to, if you just want to end this call and don't get any information from me, that's fine. If you really want me to send you something, let's figure out what you want me to send you. And a lot of times, they do want you, and I've been doing this long enough that I usually can tell if somebody's giving me BS or
the brush
not.
off.
Yeah. But a lot of time, like today, I had that happen, and the guy said, "Hey, I'm busy. I need some information, and if you can call me back on Tuesday, then we can continue the conversation." Well, I know when he says it like that there's he's being real. So I think that again that comes with experience. And Mark obviously knows that. But so sometimes, it is that they're not interested. And if you let them off the hook, I'd rather do that than try to, force a round peg into a square hole or whatever. Which square into round. Sorry about that. So
yeah, no, that's it. Right? Is acknowledging it, kind of understanding. It comes with experience and understanding objections, and in the early days of us all SDRing, we're forced to handle every objection, right? That's just the role, and you're told to follow up and do all these things. But once you reach some of our level, it's like, hey, manager, back off. Like, I'm not going to push that person. I can clearly tell that they're saying that with real genuine purpose versus, oh yeah, just send me more information. Like I mentioned to you guys earlier, like maybe you got to look at yourself. Maybe your value prop wasn't done well enough. You know, there are times when they're just knee jerking you. So you need to review the game tape and understand that. Then there's other times where like, dude, they really are telling you like, it's not of interest. Maybe they really do want to, because sometimes you'll rebuttal to send me more information and they kind of get offended because they're like, hey, jerk, I really do want the email and I really will get back to you. But now don't even bother sending it if that's how you're going to look at it. Right.
Well, yeah.
And Ronan,
especially if they ask you to send an email, that's like, okay, like what information specifically would you like to see in that email? How is it relevant to your team? And they're like, I don't actually know what you do. So
exactly. Right.
I don't
just
know.
Send me anything. Yeah, just send me anything. Right?
I think it's also a matter of when you get that comment or that objection. I hate to use the word objection, but it's like when you get it. Like if you get it a second out the gate, then it's a timing thing. Like you just caught them heads down in something else, and just acknowledge that.
Yep.
It's no problem with acknowledging. Hey, maybe I just caught you at a bad time, right? You know, I'd rather just call you back. Could I call you back maybe later? Yeah, call me back later. Okay, great.
Cool.
Yeah,
great.
So 90% of the objections you get, if the first objection you get is usually going to be a brush off, and it's going to come off in many different forms, and then you can actually start to suss out on the second objection. Oftentimes is like
because they've got their script too. Don't forget, you know.
Yeah, exactly. They have their own script. It's like, yeah, I'm running to a meeting. Yeah, no worries. Would you mind if I borrow 30 seconds to? I realize I caught you cold here. That's my way to like lower
the defensive, that let it down. Yeah.
Look, I know I caught you cold. Like I got it. Would you mind if I borrow 30 seconds to just explain just a little bit more, and you can let me know if it's even worth a follow up if they said something information.
Yep.
I love John Barrows has one. He's like, look, would you? You know, he says like, you know, we don't need to. That way we don't have to waste time with unnecessary follow up. Which you know, is a different flavor, but I like that one too.
I do.
But I just think there's usually a good way to start off any objection is like, look, I understand I caught you out of the blue. I realize you weren't expecting my call. I know I caught your cold here, and then like your tonality can then also help you out a lot. You can almost say offensive things, but if you're like, if your tonality is kind and pleasant, your prospect gives you back that energy. And so that is like, to me, the first step of a good objection handle is to just let them know you caught them out of the blue. I get it. You weren't expecting my call. You're busy. That's okay. And then I lean back on, I know this is maybe not popular in the group, but asking for permission to proceed again, and buying yourself another shot on goal.
Yeah.
So Aaron, I used to build mortgage-backed securities desks for a lot of the banks back in the late 90s. I saw you were a WM. Yeah, I saw your one of your first thing on there. Did you get blown out in 08? You got blown out in 08, huh?
No. I was a mortgage bond analyst at a fund that if you ever saw The Big Short, and there's like that first scene where Christian Bale is looking at a screen of he's got three monitors, and he's looking at like just default rates skyrocketing on bonds. That was my job. And like that movie was incredibly like accurate about in its portrayal of like the down to like very good details. I was a mortgage bond analyst at a company that bought distressed debt. That was and like that's why I like SaaS a lot, because SaaS is a bond basically as a it works exactly the same, like slightly differently, but like the revenue.
It's a fixed income.
Yeah, exactly, like a bond.
It could be a fixed income security. You could probably build a fund off of that, right?
No, you probably could actually.
That's actually an interesting idea. Securitize SaaS revenue. So
you heard it here.
You heard it here,
My
folks.
name's Mark Mack, Aaron. Don't forget it.
I witnessed it.
Look, he's thinking about it. Look, Eric's got some ideas now. He's like, okay.
Here's an interesting question. Okay, so like we empathetically start off an objection, but my question to the group is, how many objections do you think exist in the universe?
5.
Yeah, 5. Yeah,
there's
exactly.
about 5 or 6 that you hear all the time. There's an infinite number of ones that I could probably come up with, though.
Yeah.
Well, you're forgetting about
they're all flavors of the same.
Yeah,
5,
exactly.
5, 6
You're forgetting about objections you can't see. Like they don't like the fact that I sound like I'm from New York. They don't like the fact that I'm a guy. They don't like the fact that I'm a girl. They don't, it's like you don't see those objections that actually affect the way the call's outcome. So, the questions is I'm stretching the semantics of it, of course. But that's interesting.
The unknown objections. Well, the objections, that's an interesting topic.
Those are ones you have no control over, though.
Yeah, right. You don't have any control over that. That's right.
That's them.
That's right. And so, what do you think the most common objection that you get is?
Send me some information.
But
it's not really it's not an objection. Once you realize it's really that's not an objection. I
think it's a brush off. I think
it's a brush off.
That's a brush off. Yeah. A real objection tends to be with timing or budget, right? It's usually time or budget is
later in the process, right?
I feel like lately it's budget.
Differentiation of some sort. If they think you're like, if they think you're a commodity, that's a hard. That means you didn't do a good enough job with your value, but. That's tough to overcome if they've lumped you in with 8 other companies that are essentially doing the same thing.
Yeah. So let's just say, would it be fair to say something like this? Like, you give someone a call and they say, "I'm using a competitor," right? All right. I'm using a competitor. Yeah. My go-to for that is, would you mind if I borrowed 30 seconds to explain a little bit how we're different? And you can let me know if you want to continue the conversation. Yep. The hard part with that one for SDRs is that
say better.
I'm totally okay with that flavor too. So I think the hard part with that is it requires the business to have a very clear understanding of their differentiation. And the reality is like not a lot of companies do. They're like, we have a nice UI. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That is the least compelling differentiator in existence. Maybe if it's like a competitor's UI is just so bad and no one uses it, okay. But like the actual differentiators that we have better adoption, that has value.
That's a huge one.
Well, that's the result of the implementation, right? And that's what people want to hear. What is life going to be like with you in my corner or your software or whatever it is, versus where I'm at today? So if you can paint that picture.
Okay. I try to ask them, if you had a magic wand, what would you do differently with the tool you have today? Hey, I love that you're using, let's say, Connect and Sell, right? We're calling on Orem and it's like, hey, we use Connect and Sell. Okay, that's great. If you had a magic wand, is there anything that you would want that system to do for your team that it's not doing today? And try to see if that aligns with where I separate, right? And they're like, I really just wish it could get through directory trees a little bit different. It's a really small delay when the call is connected. It does cause a little bit of friction for my team. Great. Well, that's why I called. Orem doesn't have that, right? That connection happens instantaneously. You don't see that hang up. How many calls are you typically losing to that delay? 10. And now you start playing that conversation, right? And you're like, what would 10 more do for you if you did have those connections, right? And now all of a sudden they forget they're talking about getting a competitor, right? They're just having a conversation. So that's kind of where I go to Aaron, is kind of just dive into what would they change or what do they like? One of those two questions to kind of dig into the tool and acknowledge it, right? Hey, I love Connect and Sell. Very, very common tool on the market. We hear some great things. Why do you like it? Or, what don't you like about it? And then go from there and then find out like what they don't like and if my tool could be a differentiator because they're going to tell you the differentiators they're looking for. You don't got to worry about your company figuring it out. Let the prospect tell you, and then you can align and find out if you match that.
It's also a green flag because you know that it's already a priority for them if they're using a competitor.
That's my favorite thing to say is I always acknowledge, like, if they said, hey, I'm using
investment into the space. Like,
exactly. I'm like,
right.
That's so refreshing, man. Thanks so much, Aaron. Most people don't even realize the power of a parallel dialer. They got most of their SDRs doing manual. How did you come to that decision? What made the move from, doing it manually to that? Oh, it was this. We were trying to grow a pipeline. Cool. How's that been going? And now it's a whole different conversation.
You got to acknowledge. Yeah, you've got to acknowledge that. You got to remember, especially with a product like Orem, Connected Sales, Salesforce, whatever, depending on even how many users you have, you got to think about the investment that person has made even before they brought that tool on. They went through a vetting process. They went through a budgeting process. It could have been a year it took. Then they had an implementation with 500 users, took a year and a half. And now all of a sudden you're calling them up and you're like, our product is better. It's just like you're not being empathetic to the idea that this person just went through this entire process, and now you're just trying to, you're not. You might actually be better, and you might actually be better for them, for that matter. But you haven't gotten there yet. You haven't even figured. You haven't. Right. You got to let those people get there. You have to acknowledge the fact that they just went through this whole process that chose that. Now you want to tell them, well, you should use us. It's not going to work. So you have. That's where I feel like empathy comes.
Don't tell their baby that they're ugly. Well, don't call their baby ugly, like you said.
One thing also that it shows empathy is what Mark talked about before, which is adoption, and that's a huge. Like a lot of companies will say, "Hey, there's not software in the market that doesn't have good ROI if people use it the way it's designed to be used, or if they use it at all, for that matter, right?" So that's one of the ways I try to differentiate what we do, because there's no adoption for what we do because it's completely running in the background. And I bring that up right away because that's one of the biggest objections we get in the software space, at least lately, because you got CFOs that are going to sign off on a lot of stuff they weren't signing off on before. And they don't want to sign off on anything unless they know that they're actually going to get ROI on it, So,
yep.
Yeah, I think, if you understand that someone has spent a lot of time implementing a solution, trying to just whenever you tell someone something is better, like you have to lead them to the promised land. They have to come to that conclusion on their own. People resist being told.
Exactly.
Anything you tell them, they're not going to has not the power that they arrived at that ideation themselves.
Yeah. Okay. So here's this is why I really personally like. So I'm an account executive. I save discovery for a discovery call. I do not believe that a cold call is your place for discovery. I think it is ill advised for a whole bunch of reasons because, well, you're catching someone out of the blue. It's just very, very, probabilistically speaking, not the right time to have a full-on discovery call. So, therefore, I think that constantly asking for permission, right? Either when you get the objection or after you explain what you've some sort of outcome you're going to get for the customer. Reason for my call: I saw you're managing sales development. Reason for my call is I saw you're managing cybersecurity over at the reason for my call is I saw you're managing cybersecurity over at Zscaler. I want to very briefly introduce, I have a cloud solution that helps you reduce the number of cybersecurity incidents for your organization. Would you mind if I borrow 30 seconds to explain a little bit more? It's not these discussions are not. They're not like, I can't tell you what I'm selling in 5 seconds, but I don't want to have a 15-minute discussion with you either, because I know you don't have time for that. So, so that is at least like the intellectual reasoning for why I believe like a permission-based strategy is a good one. And if we're going to scale cold calling, And that is definitely what solutions that any sort of parallel dialing solution wants to do. It's very important that we have a good prospect experience. And so I do think that, what is your position? I'd love to hear from the group on like, what are some like good ways you want to make sure you send a good message out in the marketplace. If you got 30 reps who are all making calls into a vertical, you want them to have good experience with your prospects. So like, what are some strategies that you can use on cold calls to make sure that your prospects do have those positive experiences with you, and things to avoid too? Maybe that's even a hotter topic.
What's I think like a playbook comes into play, right? So you can scale that stuff, show them how they want to qualify, right? Let them know in those scenarios so it's repeatable. That's where coaching tools come in too, because it'll show you what things are moving a deal along when these things are said. You know, is permission-based opener having an effect on our process? Because you're right, you've got 30 reps going into one vertical and one market. How are they aligning? Are they all handling the objections the same way? Are they all sharing the same stuff? Because that stuff spreads, right? Toxic, very toxic, right, for your market. So how are you aligning, right? How are you making sure to avoid the pitfalls? You know, make sure they're answering the right questions. And I think that's where tech does help. It just does to kind of scale a manager out. Other, you know, Gong, some of those things where you are listening to the calls, like Orem, right? Being able to go back through the calls in the one-on-ones. I like to do role plays with the team, right? Let them play out those scenarios, bring in a call, let them play it out and say, hey, let me just hear, Aaron, how you would handle this objection. And then you find discrepancies and you're like, whoa, why do you do it that way? But John over here does it this way, right? And you want everybody to have their own way of doing it, but have like a overtone on how they're going to do it, right? That they have the same kind of process with it. That's why I teach like address, align, and acknowledge, because I don't care how you handle it. Just make sure you're acknowledging it, you're addressing it, and then you're aligning the conversation back. I don't care what you do. Just at least let the prospect know you heard them and you acknowledge it, you address it, show them how you're helping other customers do it, or you're at least addressing the concern, and then you're aligning back the conversation. If you're doing that, then I know you're going to do good on the calls. You're going to take care of the client or the prospect and move forward. So that's kind of how I would address it or look at it.
Mark, what about just scaling? What about scaling objection handling? Like, how do you get reps? How do you get reps to say the same stuff for all your differentiators? If someone says I'm using a competitor, what do you say? Like address. I'm not like. Let me challenge you there. I'm not sure address and align is gonna solve a problem there, right? So like how do we scale objection? You got 30 reps. How do you scale objection handling across 30 reps?
Well, you know, look, maybe this is some clarity that people need on what's considered a talk track. Mm-hmm. Okay, a talk track is not just an opener, right? A talk track is inclusive of. They say this, you say that. They say this, you say that. They say this, you say that. And all the iterations of that, as many as you can build. Now, I don't expect somebody just to obviously come into an organization not know nothing about the company or the product or the service and who their customer is and be able to write that out. You have to get in it to actually figure out what those things are and what works. And then that's how once you get it down, you know, to at least some basic things that actually work or how you want to represent your company with respect to those objections or questions, then it's repeatable as long as it's actually documented, you know, because you then from a I don't even call CYAing it, but like if I'm the manager or the coach of that team, I'm going to walk everybody through that entire talk track multiple times a week, right? And then I'm going to make sure, and then like when you go to listen to calls, the way to reinforce that is you have the other reps listen to the call on those calls where you know they missed it and say, okay, identify what he missed. And he's like, well, normally when the client says this, you know, I would say X. Great, that's what we have in the book. And like they kind of learn from each other that way too, because it's like, it's not like you wrote it and it only works for you. You let them test it and there'll be iterations of that. But everybody, again, you still always have that memorize, personalize, internalize, even if it's those talk tracks and the way those people handle the objection, because not everybody has the same tone, not everybody has the same pace, not everybody has the same rhythm or candor or how you want to call it in their speech pattern. So it's going to come off differently with everybody. But if you have that, again, like you talked about earlier, Aaron, having a framework, I think once it's on paper or on Google Doc or whatever you want to call it, then you can scale it.
Next question. Role playing. Role playing can be an absolute gigantic mess.
Of course.
Yes.
Right. So I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And one of the things that I have observed is you set out to practice some sort of movement, and then your partner starts doing something different, and it's very subtle, but it changes the whole thing. So you're now practicing the wrong thing. Right. And so I think like role playing in cold calling is like very susceptible to this, where it's hard for the reps to like practice the thing over and over again. Now, it's also really hard to practice because if you're using some sort of click to call solution, you're getting like, I don't know, 2 connections a day at best, right? Or something like that. And so it's like really hard to practice live. It takes you hours and hours to get an at bat. So like that's a problem. But then when you practice in role plays, like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of what is your perspective on like what is the best way?
Well, you just sold your product, bro. Like I'm saying, like if somebody asks me that question, I'm gonna go Orem.
Yeah, that's getting live connections, but you know what? Like, but like, there's no doubt. Like, obviously, like a parallel dialing solution is gonna get you more connections than a click to call solution, right? Yeah. It's a very, very easy to see that. And so you'll get more connections, you get more at bats, you learn faster. Great. But what if we don't want to make our mistakes on our prospects?
Yeah, you want to practice on your prospects.
How do you role play effectively on this stuff? So you can practice empathy and acknowledgement. Like, how do you do that?
Can I tell you how we do it? Just because we've started to do it differently, and I think it's made a big difference. Because to my mind, you know, I played sports, and the game is a lot different than practice, but you still practiced, right? Michael Jordan practiced. Al Pacino has scripts. He doesn't sound like he's on the script. He sounds like he's really talking. So we use breakout rooms now in Zoom, and we switch partners, but we go one-on-one and do it that way. We get more done, and there's not as much distraction, and people are actually paying attention. So we're sticking with the framework of the script so that it is still me, and you know, Aaron and I would be different with the same objective, but that it's worked. We've only been doing it for about 2 weeks, and we've seen big differences in a short amount of time with the consistency of the message and that it's being used by the team, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd like to. Oh, Tom's talking, but you're on mute, buddy.
Sorry. I will say, I'll give a small plug, Aaron, because there's a company, Nick Sproul and Second Nature is doing some cool stuff with this. They use AI. So they created a character named Jenny where they make the simulations for the role play, and then Jenny takes the reps through it. So they can do it at any time. They can continue to repeat. It actually in real time will tell them if they got it wrong or not, but Jenny will be a fake AI to play through how to practice that stuff, that tone, that scenario. One thing I used to do in my playbooks is I would have my reps take all their calls when they had those objections, and we would label them. So we'd have folders where budget, and you could go and watch or listen to those calls, right, or those Zoom calls on how people handled the objection. But I think role playing it out, you know, really going through it to teach, it's just hard because it's not as real, right? It has always been the biggest gap in the industry to role play, because me and Mark can sit right now and role play for you. We know what to say. We know where we want the call to go versus jumping on the phone and getting cussed at or told that you are, you know, I don't want to talk to you. It's hard to be empathetic right then in that moment, you know. Go ahead, Mark.
There's a lot of problems with role playing, especially with role playing either with managers or with yourselves, because there's a lot of there's a game in there, right? Because you want to try to be that best prospect for your rep, your fellow rep, or the manager is going to hit you a little harder than it would normally come. There's all kinds of factors why I don't really truly believe role playing is executed well. I think where role playing, and maybe this is a bomb here, I don't know if it's going to be, but I think the problem with role playing is typically it's in a group, and it's the manager and there's a lot of crosstalk, and you definitely don't get through everybody. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you're trying to get through a whole call, like with each one of them, and that's the mistake. I think the best way to role play is to segment. Let's focus on the first 5 seconds, the opener. You go, and you do it. And I say, you know what? Try that again. And you do it again.
So that's
you do it again and again.
That's my whole point, is like, if you go in there and then like I came into practice one thing, the opener, but then we continue on for the reason for my call and asking for permission and objections, we are now practicing 5 different things all at once, and we're boiling the ocean. So I couldn't agree with you more. It's like, here we are to practice the opener. Hey, my name is Aaron calling from Orem. It's great to connect with you, Mark. How are we doing today? Again, hey, this is it, right? And like humans have to repeat things. So, you know, so here's like, I think if, do you, let's just say you could make an AI solution more realistic than do you think that can scale? Like, do you think people would buy into that if you actually had that's always something I've had like a doubt around, which is, you know,
I think you and I could build a heck of a coaching platform if you want to.
What's that?
I said, I think you and I mean, your money and I could build a coaching platform that would kick ass. No, I'm serious. No, I think it could be taught. I think with all these new things that are coming out, it could be taught really, really heuristic level type of things that it'll pick up on. I know it's good.
What I would love to have happen, Aaron, and what would make it realistic with these AIs is if you could upload all of your calls that your team has done thus far. Okay, so Orem, you have all the data and all the calls for this org of all styles, good calls, bad calls, connects, objections. Take that, plug that into an AI role play, feed that AI actual real live conversations, real things from your base of customers, then go role play that stuff. That would give adaptability to where it's actually playing out like a prospect based on what you hear, what is said, versus me putting in prompts in it and kind of building out a perfect, you know, it's actually taking the volume of my calls.
You have all those calls. You have all those conversations, don't you, of every customer, or you don't have that? That's privilege. That's like privacy.
What do you mean, Orem?
Like,
yeah.
Orem's got a ton of conversations, of course. Yeah, we got it.
No, but that's your own people selling your own product. But I'm like, you know, when I was using Orem, do you have the same recordings of me in some kind of huge database somewhere, terabytes and terabytes of that?
If you've agreed to record, yes, like Orem records that data.
Yeah, man. So I'm just saying,
that
like,
would be cool, right?
You probably have the data to build something like that easy.
Yeah, I think so.
For the org, right? You take all their calls.
Let's say we build like an AI. I guess like I'm pretty like I just watched. Here's what I go through in Orem, right? Like we get to a pilot, and then great, we get reps a ton of connections, and then they're like, oh my gosh, I now am connecting with people. So Orem moves the problem from connecting with people
to communicating,
to create a bigger problem though.
Yeah, right? because
then you
amplifies.
Yeah, but you have control over that.
Expose people
that at some point.
Yeah, well, I guess what I'm saying is, so it's like, okay, great, we solved the connection problem. Now I've got to get you good on the phone, and so I just think there's an enormous opportunity to like, and so like, right, the solution right now is like role playing. Like that's what we got.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but here's the problem: we have a generation of SDR leaders who aren't really familiar with the phones, because in 2017 you could double your emails and you would double your pipeline. And like making calls in 2019 wasn't super time efficient because you didn't have a ton of mobile phone data. You know, like Zoom Info and Lucia and Lead IQ and Sales Intel, they didn't have a ton of mobile phone data. Like now we got a ton of mobile phone data, right? But like 2018, that wasn't true. So you're just it wasn't super time efficient, you know, like relative to email and like during that period of time. So I kind of don't blame anyone. And so I just feel like when you go into role plays, you have people who are just doing their best, but no structure And I think like even having just a structured role play where like we're just practicing openers, we are just practicing the reason for the call, we are just practicing your elevator pitch, we are just practicing the objection.
Well, now you're talking about like sports. Well, now
Like-
you're talking about like sports, right? Where you identify, you know, okay, look at a football team, right? You have wide receiver trainers and coaches, you have running back coaches, basketball. They have practice tonight, but it's just threes for tonight. That's what we're going to do for the next hour. Shoot threes, work around. Then we're going to go to the next unit, which is now going to be two pointers, right? So if you break down your role play to just that repetition of just getting that opener down until you got it pat dry, then from there we move on to the next section of your call, right? But if you're going in and role playing out the whole call, dude, you're not going anywhere. Let's be real. It's not going to stick. It's not going to be anywhere.
Yeah,
it's like you were saying.
I'll tell you, I would very much love to just, if I had to role play all day, I was just thinking like 8 hours of, so you have 8 people. Every hour I have one person and you have one person. Like, so you need the AI to scale it, right? And so like if that one coach, if that one coach like me or Tom does the 1 hour, and then that you like kind of get a bunch of that stuff feeding into the ML AI, and then you can continuously, then you can replicate it, something like that. You need some base.
Do you think
you have the conversations, but can you teach the AI to extrapolate from those conversations how to acknowledge an objection because it heard it there? So it would be like if-then statements. I'm sure it could be easily put together.
Well, see, one thing about that I wanted to just throw in here real quick is that, like a sport, there's a lot of different parts of the foundation turn those skills into a player. Okay.
Right.
And the top players generally still practice, right? But if you could, and then they scrimmage, then they have a real game. They don't just scrimmage, and they don't just practice fundamentals. The scrimmage is an opportunity to put it all together in what is as close as real time and real game conditions as you can, without it being a real game. So I think it's, I think that the fundamental part is where the real lack is. And I think that's kind of what you were saying, Aaron, is that if you're practicing from the beginning to the end and not really focusing on any one thing, you're going to be mediocre the whole time. And you're not. So I think that, like you all were saying, though, if you break those things down and they can use AI to scale it, I mean, it would be dangerous for the buyers. So,
well, you also have to figure out, though, the other thing is something Aaron's kind of hinting at here is there's different journeys for everybody. Then what's the qualification to get to the next round of the role play? And maybe 3 of your team, you have a team of 30, maybe 5 are still stuck at the opener, but the other 10 are stuck at the middle part and objection handling, and then 5 are stuck at closing, right? How would you navigate that? How do you work that, and how do you scale that? There's different journeys.
Are you going to gate it? Because so they have the gate, meaning not like money gates, but score it.
Well, you got minor leagues and major leagues, for a reason. Yeah. You're double A. You're not in the show yet,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to do a minimum of 20 role plays of opening your cold call, and you need a minimum score of 8 to be able to get past that. If you can't do that, then we cannot proceed to now start getting you into objection handling because you're just not there. We need to focus here, right? And so you would score it, you'd have AI enriching it, you'd have all these progress reports coming to you as a manager on a weekly basis to, dive into in your one-on-ones and get them to advance. There's really something here, Aaron, to teach this empathy at scale through role play, AI, get these conversations a lot more enriched at a scale where finally at a point where these tools exist.
Yeah.
The thing about the role, how do you get it to go the other way though? Because it's meaning like you're talking about it playing the role of the prospect. So even if it listens to calls back and forth, I guess you could feed into it. Like you could choose for your reps. You could say, okay, today I'm going to have it on medium or hard, or like, how do you do that? You could definitely do that. How do you get the AI to initiate? Because they're the ones that throw out the objection easily. If the rep says this, then the seller says that, it's like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not the
here's
programmer, but
here's my point of view is that like I just like the gift that Orem has given me is that every call is the same to me now because I've had so many connections.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this is this thing. And I'm just
you
like,
get into that. Yeah.
It's like an internal, like everything has been labeled. And so if you can literally, and the beautiful thing about the beautiful thing about a cold call is it's like, you know, a minute or 5 seconds to, okay, on the extreme end, 15 minutes, but your like average call is going to be, I don't know, 60.
You know, I think I broke my record yesterday. I had a 26 minute call.
I'm sorry.
Holy smokes, too long. That's too long, bro.
I'm questioning both of your judgment on that one.
No,
you don't want to know what my record is.
You know,
you don't want to know my record.
Usually when something's like that, and I have only a couple in my history, it's more of like we got into personal stuff. You know, we were talking about Denver, and my grandfather built SD
You can't
Park,
beat my
Colorado.
record.
Hey, Mark, the first time you and I talked to the phone, we talked about the dead. That's all we talked about. So
yeah,
my longest call.
My
longest call. Hold on.
Is a correlation, not the causation of revenue.
My longest call in 16 years was 8 hours. I had an 8-hour phone call with one prospect for.
Are you married? Are you married to her now? I'm confused.
No. So I was in for-profit education. Were
you stuck in the woods in a tent and you were trying to stay alive?
No. So I took people from a cold form that they filled out on Career Builder back in the day, like wanting to go to college, and we would enroll them, and I would have to take them through transcripts, like doing all the process, financial aid. And so I had a woman, like third call of the day. She was a talker and she wanted to do everything. So we spent the entire day. I was on the phone with her while she went to Safeway to send the forms. Like we went through her financial aid. We did everything. And I was there from morning
to closed in one call, though, so that's good.
Yeah, it was all in one day, but it was 8 hours, man. Like that's my longest call. And it was like a tremendous, it was exhausting. 8 hours with this woman not hanging up. I was like, dude, yeah. And here I am now doing 8-hour live shows. You know, it built me for this. What's yours, Aaron? What's your longest call?
Aaron, I know you would tell me that, like, you know, obviously there's a lot of statistics that say, you know, obviously the longer the call goes, sometimes the worse the outcome, right? It's a very rare thing. But I'll tell you this, just to my point earlier in tonight was, if you give yourself up to the call. So I'm in an interesting position because I run a outsourced sales development company, right? And so I have multiple clients. And I'm not servicing all of those clients, so I'm not intimately familiar with every little detail of what the problem they solve and who they solve it for. But I have these other, you know, and I have you, and I have a million other people on LinkedIn and so when I give myself up to just asking questions and listening, sometimes you know, if you get somebody who talks, they're going to talk until you can maybe identify a way to go with them, right, down this path, and maybe that path doesn't lead anywhere. But sometimes when I really give myself up to that prospect, they start telling me things that lead me to set them up with you, or to set them up with my friend's client, or, you know, my other colleague's client, or maybe Tom or Sandy, right? And so those calls could be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I don't think they're a waste. I think they're probably even more quality than some of the other calls that are only 3 minutes, where you get a meeting and then they don't show up to the meeting, and then you got to reschedule the meeting, and then when you finally get there, it's not a good fit.
Yeah,
so
short calls a lot of times don't stick for me. They're just like longer calls. I mean, longer calls, like about 10 minutes is where I find are the best quality of my calls.
6 to 10, yeah. 6 to 10 is good.
6 to 10.
If you don't have the meeting booked, though, if you don't have the meeting booked within 6 minutes, you're probably not getting the meeting booked.
Right.
Right.
I'm gonna come with a different perspective here. I think talk time tells you one thing.
That you talked a lot. Or there was a long call.
It tells you
that it was a long call, right?
Well, look, let's just say, like, let's just talk about the funnel, right? Is when I go dials to connects to conversation of some sort of length of time, and then conversation of some sort of length of time to a meeting. A dial to connect is your connect rate, and that is a measure of your, for the most part, your data quality. All right.
Right.
Sure.
That is the okay. And how much your number showing up as spam. Okay. Biggest thing though, there's like really two things that are going to affect your connect rate. Like, is your number showing up spam, but are you calling mobile phones, and do you have accurate data? Okay.
Yep.
That is not a skill metric. That is an operational metric. Yep. Now your connect rate. Okay. So a human answered. Okay. If I've spoken with them for some amount of time, I've now intrigued them some sort of amount. So I can tell that something positive is going away. If none of your connections turn into conversations, something is going bad. If all of your connections are turning into conversations, something is going very good. And so now the question is like, okay, so how many of those turn into meetings? And so like, I don't know, in my experience, it doesn't take a long time to set a meeting. The positive business people buy three things: revenue, increase in revenue, decrease in cost, decrease in risk. There's some sort of positive business outcome you have to achieve for the customer. Now the question is like, what is that outcome? And like, hey, what is the outcome you get for the customer? And like, hey, look, if I could do something similar for you, do you think that'd be worth another conversation? And like for me, I can't have a 45-minute conversation with someone because I've got a call at 6 o'clock. Okay. So it's just not going to work for me. And so, and if you time block your day, long cold calls is probably going to
kills it.
Probably just going to like is a disruptor. So using talk time as a proxy for how good the meeting is, I'm not quite sure about that. Mm-hmm. How good the meeting is like, is it fit in your ICP? And does it fit in your ICP? Is it a persona that you sold to in the past? Those are the things that tell me if it's a good meeting or not. So
but haven't you ever had a short call where somebody just agrees with everything? You set a meeting and it was just bullshit. I mean,
and then they don't show up.
Yeah,
talk time is like open rates.
Who are you calling?
Like, it doesn't really make a difference.
Just accept a meeting. Those are people who are low on the totem pole, in my opinion. But the CFO of a publicly traded company is not going to like.
No. I'm not saying that it happens all the time. I'm just saying that I've noticed that when I have a call that goes too easily and there's no friction at all, that's not a good sign usually.
That's also a bad sign too. Yeah, it's something you want to be wary of.
If I may, to your point, Aaron, though, right? And I think you kind of touched on this. I think there is that kind of rhythm to the, like you said, you're very kind of almost robotic with it now because you've got so many reps under your belt, right? And I don't mean reps like representatives.
Yeah, repetitions.
Yeah, reps. And so like, I think that it's weird because, if you take the call the same way every time that works, right? There's going to be that pace. Oh, hi, I'm here to talk to you. Blah, blah, blah. You get through the definition, whatever it is. Then you say, oh, this sounds interesting to you. Oh, so let me see if I understand what you're saying. You guys have this. You want to get to here. Okay, great. We recently did XYZ for this. It sounds like there might be something here. Why don't we schedule some time that's a little bit more convenient where we can dive deeper into this? How does that sound? Great. Boom. And then you set that time. Now, you could back out of the call, but I would usually, in order to make it stick a little bit, sometimes like to say things like, so great, just as I prepare for for this call, what would be really some of the key takeaways you'd want to have from our next conversation, or what was really of interest to what I just said? I just want to make sure because I need to, I'm going to have you meet with so-and-so. And so I want to give them the best, introduction I can. And then they start to go and start to talk a little bit more about it. Right. And so then it becomes, you might, and I'm not talking that this is a discovery. You're just trying to clarify the interest here. You might ask one or two more questions. Right. And so I think, like I was saying earlier, I think the meeting is going to get set within the first 3 to 5 minutes or less. But then the call could go 6 to 8, I think, in some cases, or even to 10 with all that other stuff potentially.
Maybe I'm just a savage.
Get the meeting early on.
Talk to you later.
Boom. Talk to you later. No, it's
I
okay.
do that too. I get off the call quick.
Right? Yeah.
I get off the call quick too sometimes. Like the call I set on the show today was pretty quick. I mean, I kind of gave the guy a customer of ours that he's actually knows, you know, and I honed in on two kind of what I thought could be synergistic, and he bit, and then I even said, I was like, you know, do you want to have a further conversation about this? And he's like, and I'm like, not right now. I always like throw that in there. I'm like, you know, not right now. And they always get relieved. And then he's like, sure. And then we set the meeting, you know? And so I agree with you. I think it's going to happen quick. And I do hang up, but if there's that, you know, if I just let it happen sometimes, you know, but you're right. You got to be, in today's day and age, you got to be cognizant of your time. Like there's not enough time in a day. And I think if you could give me another 6 hours a day, I'd probably be even more of a beast, but,
well,
but like
Aaron talks about, with Aaron talking about empathy, right? The best thing you could do with showing empathy to these people or respect to these people is get off the damn phone, get in, get out, and give them time back in their day, right?
Yeah,
and let it be done, right? Like I come in, I talk about your pain, I let you know, is this something available? Like most of the time, like Mark, I would say 10 minutes or less, you're getting a meeting. I don't know anybody else. Most SDRs can, within 5 to 10 minutes, are off those calls. I had reps where they were on, their talk time was 12 to 15 minute averages. And I was like, what are you doing? And they're taking notes this big, over qualifying. And I'm like, stop. That's for discovery. That's for that stuff. Like the way I put it, Aaron, the way I look at it, Aaron, is I tell SDRs all the time and people is the doctor and office assistant, like kind of relationship, right? Let's say you had a knee problem and you call your doctor's office. That assistant there, the office manager, is in and out. They're asking what time you're available, how bad the pain is, to where how soon do you need to be seen, and when can you be seen, and then they're off the phone. The doctor then, when you go in for the visit, are going to actually diagose your problem.
Yeah,
Same thing with SDRs.
Fair analogy.
Yeah, it's just
the doctor might even ask you, "Can you move your knee? Is it going to
like?
Yeah, did you have any
How
mobility?
urgent? How do I? Right. How do I create the urgency, Aaron? How
That's a
bad
good
of a
analogy.
problem is this? Right? How bad is it? Because I can book the meeting for a week, 2 weeks out, or I can book it tomorrow because holy crap, Aaron, like you got to get seen right now. This is a big problem. But I'm not getting into the weeds of like, you go and ask the office manager, what should I do? Should I put ice on it? They don't know, right? They won't give you that access. They just say, listen, right now it doesn't sound too urgent. I'm not the doctor. You're going to want to come into the office. Let us diagnose the problem. Then guess what? You go to the office. The doctor sits down with you and says, hey, Aaron, heard you got a knee problem. Can you talk me through it? What's been the level at? Like, and now they get into it. That's where SDRs have to carry that mindset. Get in, diagnose the problem, determine how urgent that problem is, get on the calendar to get solved, and move on, right? And get on to the next person and let your AE do their job and be the doctor, right? And qualify it and dive into the actual problem. So that's how I do it, or preach to SDRs to get in and get out like an office manager.
Yeah.
Not our job to be all in the weeds.
Yeah, I like that analogy. I might steal that from you. Won't be giving you any credit.
It's a good one.
I'll be like,
That's okay. That's all of LinkedIn. Now you're just like everybody else on LinkedIn.
Huge post tomorrow. Cold calls are not a discovery call. All right. It's like the doctor. And you're going to see that tomorrow at around 11 a.m.
Okay.
It was, I'm just kidding. It was super great to hang out with everyone for a little bit. I'm going to hop. Thanks so much. Hope this was fun for you guys.
For real, Aaron, we can't thank you enough, man. Thank you for coming. If you want to just kind of let people know where they can find you, or any other thing you want to plug for yourself, please take a moment, and then we'll see you next time. Before you go.
Yeah. As far as where to find me, you can find me. Should I put in my public LinkedIn profile in the chat here, or just say find me on LinkedIn?
You can add it. Marin will take care of you. Marin will drop it in.
I've tagged you in a couple of things, so I can drop your.
Cool.
They can.
Yeah, I'm curious about you being an AE with your background. How do you like doing? I mean,
it's great.
I don't know what your deal is with them, but I mean, I'm looking at like things you're invested in and what have you, and I'm just thinking like it's interesting that you're.
Yeah, no, it's great. I just made a lifestyle choice that I wanted to only deal with my own problems and not everyone else's. And so, I'm like super passionate about Orem. So Colin and I went to college together at UC Santa Barbara. I hired Colin as an SDR 10 years ago when the VP of sales at Orem. And we were just chatting. I was just so passionate about this product because
I think I share that a little bit. I think I share that a little bit because I always thought I would love to work for ConnectSL or Orem because I came from this time where you couldn't get the reps, where you made 300 manual literal dials with the phone on your shoulder and had to listen to the ringing, and that's what really gave me all the pain in my life, I think, to be honest with you. And then when I was introduced to Orem, it was like I actually joined Title Consulting by Steve Schmidt back in a couple of years ago because he had Orem and all the other tech, and I was like so enamored with the parallel dialer, and I thought to myself, I'm like, I could tell that story, and I'm like, especially to somebody who doesn't have it, I could say it changed my life, and I created this thing called, I call Orem work-life balance.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's true. It's just like the job of like cold calling is just a lot more fun when you're using Orem because you actually talk to the human, and then because you get more at bats, you get better at it.
Oh my god!
And then once you get better at it, you start to label things, and then you start seeing the structures and the patterns, and you realize it's all a certain variations of different things. Things just like insert in different points in time. So it was just an opportunity for me to do something that I love. I love working with sales development leaders, just do a great job at it. And it's just been it's been super fun for me.
Cool.
And we are very grateful to have
Great
you.
to meet you, man. I'm
nice to meet
you. You made me even more of a lover of Orem. I got good people.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
We love you, Eric. Thank you.
Thanks,
man. We thank you so much for coming by. Have a great afternoon, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. Talk to you later.
Hey, see ya.
Bye.
Awesome.
He's awesome. Man.
That's
cool. I'm glad he came around. I didn't know you were having this guy. And Marin, obviously, you work with him, but yeah, he was interesting. I loved his questions. They're right up our alley, right?
Yep.
He was really good.
Orem,
right?
I call it work-life balance, Marin, because it's like that you could always, like, even if it gets late in the day because you had all this work and all these meetings, you could always throw that on for an hour and like crush it.
I mean, I'm sure that you guys see on LinkedIn, our reps will post like their stats pretty frequently, or people that are using Orem will post their stats like, oh, I did this many dials, had this many connects, and booked this many meetings.
I blew
if
I didn't have a client's mind earlier this week with that. I was doing manual outreach through Apollo and HubSpot for them, and we were doing I'd be in for a 2-hour session, and I'd get through like 30, 40 dials because I had to manually add the mobile numbers, make the dial. And I was like, hey, I'm going to use my tool that I have to amplify this. It's not going to log the calls, but I just want to show you. And I went for like 2.5 hours, and I made 263 dials, and I had 12 conversations, and their mind was blown. And they were like, do that. It's okay if we don't have the activity. You do that. And I was like, right? Like way different, 30, 40, 50 dials in 3 hours versus 260. Even today,
trying to do dials and outreach, I just want to commit suicide.
I know. I made 385 dials today. You know what I mean? Like I had, it's just crazy how to amplify that and do it. It's just expensive. Let's be real. We all know. Our bosses, the people, it's expensive for some of this stuff, but
but the ROI,
it's an investment,
though,
like you said.
If you've got the right size team,
right? It's not an expense.
Well, you have to have the right. You have to have the ACV.
You got to have the cash flow. You do. You got to have the cash flow. Is what you got to have, unfortunately.
And you got to have the ACV, right? Each meeting has to make sense. It's not good for a company where their average deal size is $1,000, right? It's not going to be beneficial, but for somebody that's got a 10K, 15, 20K deal size, you're gonna sit pretty with.
Marin, what do you call into? You call into enterprise,
mid-market, SMB.
Mid-market.
Ooh, but I'm gonna objection handle here really quick. Think about how much you're paying an SDR or a BDR in both base plus commission.
You're preaching to the choir, sister.
Say your reps are booking 3 times the meetings that they did using a dialer, or when they're using a dialer, booking 3 times the amount of meetings as they were manually dialing. So that's 3 reps, 3 times their base, 3 times their salary. Guarantee the dialer is less expensive than that.
Well, they're looking at it, right? You know, they're saying, okay, I'm already paying him. If it gets a $60,000 salary, it's like 75,000. And then there's all of a sudden now you're going to tack on Salesforce $150 a month, 1,200 a year, plus Orem, which is going to be $9,000 a year. You know, right? What is it? 1,200 a month, 1,500 a month, or something. What is that?
Well,
that's
yeah,
15,000 for the, so you got to add that, right? But you're right. At the end of the day, the value kickback, right? But they don't see that at first. That's why they don't spend it.
That's why.
Right? That's the objection you probably get a lot, right? It's like,
well, that's if I was working for Orem, I would think calling it CFOs right now would be a great person to call because they understand finance and how it works, and their job is to get every bit of profit out of every dollar of revenue they have. So, like an SDR manager probably wouldn't think the way that Mark's saying right now. If I mean, I don't know if that's who you're calling, but it maybe in the companies you're calling, it might be smaller. But if somebody is writing checks and they understand business, I would think that, yeah, it's not cheap, but it's still going to drive a lot more revenue than they're driving right now, right?
Yep.
Well, it's just working the numbers backwards, right? Okay, what's your conversion rates? And then say, okay, if you had 5 to 10 more actual conversations a month with your numbers, this is what it could lead to revenue. And again, you go from a nice to have to a need, or you understand how to amplify to an investment, not an expense.
Yeah.
You know what, though? You could be talking to some people who actually don't even know that.
I know.
True.
They don't have those numbers.
They don't even have those answers. They can't even answer those questions. Like they don't know exactly how many conversations they're having. Because you know why? Because when at the end of the day, if they are doing any kind of manual dialing or anything like that, they're probably so enamored and wrapped up in whatever that team is actually getting that they don't give a shit about how many conversations. They're only caring about the one meeting that they happen to score or that whole week or whatever, you know. So I think that's sometimes probably a bit of the mindset that you might deal with when trying to sell the product. I mean, Marion, tell me, like, would you? I mean, I'm sure you guys have done this, but like, you'd look at all the connected self customers if you're going to get that information. But like, I would imagine there's probably other dialers out there. Obviously, you're competing against. What is the biggest, like, you know, from a competitive perspective, what's the biggest objection other than connected self?
Biggest objection or biggest competitor? Sorry, what?
Competitive objection. Yeah, like competitive objection. Like they already have something. What is it that they normally have? Like, what are you seeing? Are you seeing more just sort of like click dialers, or are you competing with sales loft and outreach?
A lot of it is that people are very comfortable, very set in their ways. I feel like that's one of the
status
first
quo, Mr.
discussions
Status
I
Quo.
had with you, actually,
Seriously.
Mark, was about you know, using one of the newer dialers versus just manually dialing. And then we also have the newcomers to dialing software that are making pretty big waves, but we have been in this space for a long time now and are constantly making improvements. One of our biggest selling points is that analytics go very in depth, as well as the call recordings.
I like Orem. I love it, actually.
There's also good people that work at Orem too.
I'm using Monster Connect.
Oh,
but
I'll tell you, you know, for somebody who's an individual contributor, the best solution I've seen out there from a cost standpoint and that actually has some horsepower is Salesfinity.
Salesfinity is disruptive. Yep, it's very disruptive. It's been coming up very fast. I just started with it.
People and the price is right for ICs. And I don't. You can't get it. You can't get what they do as an IC anywhere else. I don't think. I mean, it could be wrong, but I don't think you can.
I think Orem's rolling out something like that, right, Marin? Is where you are trying to play towards an IC level, a little bit more adaptable.
When you say IC, are you talking about independent?
Individual contributors?
No, just like an SDR and AE that can buy it on their own, right? Versus like a whole license.
That's what I mean.
That's
what I mean. That's what I thought you meant. Like, somebody who's going to pay for it on his own. Yeah, single user.
I mean, they've got. They really say they want to have at least two desks, but they'll do one. Believe me, I was working with them before, so.
I don't think
some
we'll
cool
want
tools
yours.
out there.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is there's a lot of, competitors coming
Players.
up.
That's not
and
really a
they're-
competitor of yours, though. Because
No,
No.
yeah. And like we don't see Gong as a competitor. There are a lot of people that we actually work with. Outreach, for example, like we use Outreach.
Right.
That people are using those dialers and it works for them.
if you want someone to commit suicide, get them to do dials on Outreach.
That's
a little harsh, but
I was close. I mean, I had a note written.
I call in Sales Loft when I'm like just doing one-offs here and there.
I mean, I love Outreach. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like that part of it.
No, it's painful, man. It's painful. Even going back for me, when I went, I went with this client and I have to do it manually and I have to do it one by one. It's agonizing. It is painful. Then they pressure you because they want meetings booked and they want results. And I'm like, it's going to take a minute because of the volume that I'm at, right? You got to
octopus
be patient.
tied 6 legs behind my
back, like give it a second. But no, Jen, I appreciate you. We're actually going to wrap up here. Yes. Mark.
Oh
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
We're going to do some prizes. We're going to close this out a little early. It's been a long day for everybody. I know we're coming to the tail end here. Mark, Sandy, you've stuck through most of the day with us, so thank you both. The godfather of cold calling.
It was awesome.
Sandy's coming up, showing up. Sandy, it's been fun watching your journey, what you're doing with Rightbound. Rightbound's a really great tool for kind of that, as you talk about the dialing process, like the lead process too, finding leads, vetting leads, doing that whole thing could be so time consuming. Rightbound lifts all of that, right? And it helps and just brings the leads to the SDRs. So it's really cool stuff what you all are doing. But stick around for a few more moments. We're just going to do the prizes, wrap up. The leaderboard is at a dead tie. So check out the leaderboard. We've got like a 5-way tie between everybody. Me and Maren don't count though. So it looks like if anybody could come clutch in a few minutes, we've got Eric, number 1, Mark Mack, and then Topher. All 3-way split with 1 meeting booked. So with that, you guys will be getting some prizes. Me and Maren will be in touch with you guys, but it's going to involve Reggie. It's going to involve a email template bundle. It's going to involve coaching sessions. It's going to involve a headset. So one of the lucky winners will get a headset. But you guys will be getting those prizes. But for those that are in attendance, please tag the 3 companies, either Lead Magic, Aware, or my own company, the SD Lab. And we're going to give out the last 3 bundles. And I'll share my screen with that, Maren, and go through that. But the first package is from Lead Magic. So we're going to do that one first. That's going to include a Lavender Pro 1-year subscription. So Lavender, again, is an incredible ride-along kind of support for your emails. Talks about your tonality, your personalization. It lives within your email. So you get 1 year to that. We also have an email templates bundle from me. They're 35 ready to go emails that you can plug and play some variables in and start using in your outreach. And then it's going to be a 1-hour coaching session with Adam J., the CRO over at Falcon. So you get a 1-hour coaching session with him to kind of talk about all things. So we will start with that one, Maren. I just need you to let me know if my screen actually shares. So 2 seconds. Enter it while you still have a chance, y'all. All right. Can you guys see it?
You are good to go.
You want to play some tunes? Here we go. Hey! Hell yeah! I like that. If you guys in the chat, if you're still around, tag Elliot. Let him know he has just won a Lavender license, a coaching session with Adam J, and my email template bundles. So how exciting is that? Oh, I'm glad Elliot won. That's very exciting. All right. Bundle number two. Let me share it again here. Okay. You ready? Can you see? Tracy again. Should I roll again, Marin, or should we let her win twice?
Let me look at what she won. It's like largely the same. Let's go ahead and roll again.
All right, we're gonna roll one more time. Tracy, you are a winner already. We love you. We are gonna try to get somebody else in here. I can't do that. How can I win my own prize?
You broke it.
Oh man, I broke it. Come on, give us somebody new. Give us somebody new. There we go.
Yeah.
Our good friend Michelle, an amazing rock star. Tag her in the comments. Let her know she is winning some epic prizes. And for the third bundle, we will pull this one.
We have another 3 months. Oh, wait. 3 months to Reggie? That was for the top 3 callers, right?
That's for the top callers, yep.
Okay, so we
this
have
one,
your
yeah.
email template bundle. Mark has graciously donated a sales live tea and 90-minute coaching session. And then we have Scott Lease Consulting and Ryan Walker donating an untethered course, which is a $299 value.
Who do we got?
Not a lot of names in here.
Now, Nick, I'll take it. Nick Phillips, tag Nick, shout him out. Nick is going to win those fantastic prizes. I'm so excited for our winners today. Some really good folks to win. They've been active all day, supporting us, have made a couple of appearances. So shout out to Michelle, Nick, for winning those. And who was our first prize? Who was the first one? It was Michelle, Nick,
Elliot,
and Elliot. So shout out to you all three. Thank you. We will be in touch shortly for those and the redemption. But thank you all for entering and for some cool prizes. Now we can turn off that music.
I'm trying.
Fantastic. No, it's so good. You were good.
Party.
That was rough. That was a party. Woo, way to end the day. Bring up our fellas. What's up, gents? That was fun. We got some cool prizes there.
Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for
good.
including us all the way to the end, man. It was a lot of fun. You guys put on a good show.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
great
You
job.
guys
Thank you.
are what made it. You guys have made it what it was. So thank you for being here, making some time out of your day, grabbing some meetings for yourself, showing kind of how fun it can be to cold call, right? Make these calls, and it doesn't always go in our favor either, right? There are days where we do strike out or things don't end up
if it did,
always
they wouldn't
working.
pay us. If it was easy,
Right? If they did, exactly, man. Everybody is doing it. So
it's
yeah,
funny. The first time, the last time I was on, in the last one, I think I made like over the course of the couple hours, it was like 200-300 dials, and I got nothing. And this time, I literally made like 15 calls. I literally made 15 dials and got a meeting. I had 4 conversations. There you go. I had 4 conversations and like 15 dials, and like I said the meeting, and then I
What
didn't do
happened,
much.
Mark? You just give up? You got the meeting, and you're like, well, that's good enough for today.
He's one
No,
guy.
I had
He's
other.
one a day
No,
guy.
I left. I got it in the morning. I left, and then like I had to go. I had other things going on, and I came back. But like that was the thing. Like I didn't really get much done today, except for that. Ironically, but.
Welcome to our world. Yes.
So my morning meeting is not gonna go over very well with presenting any kind of numbers. It's gonna be like, so today's looking really good. Here's what I got on the pipeline for today.
Yep.
Well, and everything you did set yourself up for the rest of the week, right? Those are those small actions you take, so it will you will be good.
Well, it's a shame because you always need that little bit of volume, right, to feed the next day and the next day. So like you can't do that, Marin. You can't just like score a meeting and then stop and do some other shit, because then like you're not really, because you first of all you could get 2 more meetings potentially, right? Or you could just at least get data, you get all that other stuff in between. So I always believe in sales karma. You got to do the deed every day.
Every day.
And when
Rent
you
is
don't,
due
it's
every
like,
day, as Anthony Monroe says. Rent is due every day in our role, right? You got to show up, keep planting, keep putting that stuff in there, because otherwise, the moment you let off that gas, your pipeline will falter and you will notice. So
unfortunately.
100%.
Have a great night, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Well, thank you all. We're going to wrap up a little bit
Bye.
early.
All
But
right.
thank you all for coming and tuning in, and we will see you again in Q3. We will be back. So
right.
be in touch with you all to redeem your titles. But have a great evening, and thank everybody for tuning in.
Thank you very
Anyone
much,
who's
you all.
watching too that would like to
What do you mean Q3?
participate in the Q2
I was gonna say Q2.
Phonathon, reach out to me or Tom. We would love
Q3
to have you on here.
We would. Yeah. All right, Mark. We'll see you. Thank you so
Later.
much, and good night to everybody. Thanks for tuning in today.
Bye, everyone.